It is the Ides of November, Hump Day. This week, George Brauchler with you here on The George Show, 710 KNUS. Weather today still pretty darn nice. Yesterday, they say 70. It really was really good out there. I drove for a while with the window down, which is great to do in November. It'll be 68 and mostly sunny today. Tomorrow, a few showers, and I think that's a reference to me and my personal hygiene. Tomorrow will be the day. Friday, clearing skies, 60 degrees. Saturday, they've improved it. I don't know if you remember, by a ton. If you'll recall, yesterday, I think Saturday was supposed to be in the 40s and rainy, and Sunday was going to be in the 40s with morning showers. Nope, that's completely changed. Now Saturday is 62, partly cloudy. Sunday, 55, showers and cooler. And then Monday, it says, they're guessing, 47 degrees, morning flurries. Not excited to encounter that at all. Listen, it's a hump day here. Just as an update, and Billy, I didn't tell you this off the air. It is clear to me that the conversations that we have here in the morning are really revealing in terms of what you and I do during the day. I lose sight of it.
I thought you were going to say are really stupid.
Well, that too. But I mean, I run into people.
Yeah.
And sometimes I get texts from people and they're asking me about how did this go? Or are you blank? And I'm like, and I've texted back. I'm like, how do you know that? Like, how do you know that about my life? And they're like, well, you said it on air. And I'm like, I did?
Oh, that's funny. That is
I mean, they're asking about kids and stuff. And I'm like, wait a minute. How do you know that? Like, what? And it just occurs to me that these first, and I'm going to say 20 minutes gingerly because it's more like 35 to 40, but these first 20 minutes or so, it's just, I don't know, like, hey, here it's like catching up at the water cooler or something like that.
It really is. That is kind of the first 20 minutes.
I don't know what else to say about it, but I didn't realize I was at a lunch the other day with some folks who were listeners, and one of them was like, I want to ask you questions about, what's going on with you, but I feel like I know what's going on with you. I'm like, I guess that's
good.
Probably true. There isn't a lot to hold back. So in that vein, last night, big thing for us was
what'd you do?
Both Jeff and Graham made that rank advancement in scouts to star.
Really? Oh,
so the way it works in Beyond Star is life and Beyond Life is Eagle. Now you have to have 6 months in between each of those and achieve a bunch of other things, but it was a big deal for a couple reasons. One, they're 2 away now from getting this done, and you got to do it before you're 18.
Yeah,
if you don't get the Eagle stuff completed before you're 18, nobody cares. It's like you are dead to them.
Yep.
And I remember with Trey, it was up until almost the last possible minute to get all the paperwork done. I mean, it was, and he's not alone in that. That's a model.
Oh, no, it is. It absolutely is. Yes.
So, but the other thing was these are 2 boys that are separated by time. I mean, Jeff is 16. Graham is going to be 14 next week. And so as they're up there, along with these 2 other kids, great kid, Logan Bowles, and I can't remember who else was up there, but there was like 3 or 4 of them anyway. Somebody who's doing the emceeing is like, oh, hey, listen, and we've got 2 brothers. Oh, it was the Pack Master guy. It was the Troop Master. And he says, well, it looks like we have a little bit of a competition here. We've got 2 brothers who are at the same place. And of course, Graham can't help but yell out, I'm 2 years younger,
That's a great kid.
and then Jeff goes, but I'm more motivated. And then Graham, I'm like, all right, probably not the place to do the debate thing, but we'll see what happens.
Oh, that's wonderful.
But it was, so that was a good way to finish off the day. Really cool. And other than that, trying to monitor the Nuggets game, and see, I mean, that was unnecessarily close. I mean, throughout they should have been able to pull that one out. But
but again, keep the Clippers the winless with, Harden. Thank you so much. Appreciate that.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
That is nice.
But other than that, there really wasn't much going on. That was kind of the highlight of the evening. Now you did strip trivia last night.
I did. Yes. And I still am trying to get all the glitter out of the crevices. I know.
I'm so sorry.
Sorry about
that. A little bit.
I apologize for that.
Oh my God.
Yeah. No, did Friends trivia last night, which is very funny. So, that's right at my wheelhouse.
Did people cry because of the whole Chandler thing?
No, they didn't. And I didn't do too much of it, but I addressed it a little bit, but it was nice. It was a decent crowd. A lot of people were there. I got heckled too. Yeah.
Well, hold on. Cool. Heckled good or bad? Like, take it off. Take
no,
it
no.
off. Nothing like that?
No, nothing good. No, nobody yells good things at me. But it was ever. I have kids. So I mean, it's our end of round one, and I look at our final question, and I got some time in this, and I look, and I'm like, because it was really close, and I'm looking at it, going, oh crap, the top two teams are going to tie down to the point.
Uh-oh.
And I'm like, okay.
And then it becomes some sort of a Star Trek-like fight to the death.
That's what I'm thinking. I'm sitting here going, how do I solve this? What's the play? I mean, there's no easy way to do this. So I'm running through my head. And so I go and I talk to the bar manager, and I'm like, listen, I got a tie. Is there any way we could do 2 gift certificates in this? And she's like, I can't do that without, and she said, I understand it's like a nominal amount of money, but I can't do that myself. I'm not allowed to make that decision. That would be an ownership decision. I would have to call them. I'm like, there's no way we are going to get an answer from the owner in the next 2 minutes. That's not going to happen. I got 120 seconds, and we got to figure this out. So I figured, don't worry about that. I will figure something out. So at first, I am somewhat of a trivia nerd for friends, and I'm thinking, okay, we do a kind of the Family Feud, first person to get it right kind of a thing, or highest it gets first person to get it wrong loses. Looking at that, that's not going to work out. I just didn't want to do that because getting people who are not comfortable up on the microphone is odd. Handing them the microphone, if you've ever done that in public.
Little fun.
Yeah.
Fun.
But they don't speak up. They don't project. They're nervous. Yeah. So getting them to do that is difficult. So I'm thinking having them stand there, asking a representative from the team to stand there. And then what if someone from the other member of the team knows it, but the person at the microphone doesn't? I'm like, I'm asking for headaches here. Then I noticed something. In the rankings.
They're all drunk.
No, that one of the teams has answered one question more right than the others. There are 12 questions in the round. One team has answered 11 correctly. The other one has answered 10 correctly.
Well, how can they be tied?
Based on points, because the points are gradual. So it depends on the type of question we're asking. It's either 100, 200, or 500. But as soon as I ask the question and reveal the answers, the timer goes. So the earlier you answer, the more modes. So what happened is one of the people that had the other answer, they answered right, but they answered late. Right. So they didn't catch it. Probably because of some hints that I dropped during the game. So I allow you late. If you don't know what it is, I drop something in about 90 seconds before the end of the thing that'll give you a hint. Normally it deals with the music. That'll tell you, that'll point you in the direction of what the right answer is, because I don't want you to lose. So I said, hey, this team has got one more answer right. That's our tiebreaker, blah, blah, blah. And then the other team's like, you suck. And I'm like, I know. I hear that from my kids all the time. And they're like, and that's great. And I play with them a little bit. And they're like, no, these rules suck. I'm like, what am I supposed to do? Again, we got a tiebreaker. And they said, and they suggested, like, no, we can't do that. It takes too much time. I go, this is how we're going to do it. They were grouchy. Yeah, they were grouchy. And then the bar manager comes over afterwards. And it's interesting because, of course, they're in this realm of customer service, not on our end of stuff. And she's like, oh, my gosh, I'm so sorry that the crowd did that. I can't believe they yelled at you. I'm like, that's not even the first time I've been yelled at today.
Yeah.
I go, you got to understand.
I'll be yelled at later today as well. I mean, this is nothing.
Yeah. And so I use this famous line I've told some of the more aggressive callers out there and some of the text messages people too. I said, I go, listen, like there isn't anything, given my experience in this kind of medium, there isn't a single thing that anybody in this bar can say that could even hurt my feelings. Like, I don't care.
Did you say that on the microphone?
No.
Like it would be a challenge?
Yeah, no,
let's go, folks.
No, because sometimes the drunk people will try to take you up on it. And then we got to have some sort of a battle. And I'm sorry, but making someone in the bar cry is not something that's going to make.
I know, but it's like an old 8 Mile Eminem rap war.
Oh, yeah,
except it's, dissing.
Yes. Yeah.
Old white guy dissing.
If you knew the group that I hung out with in high school, and if you have any appreciation of what I can do at home with my kids, nobody's going to win. There's nothing you're going to do to win this
thing. We need to see this. This actually becomes the part people
win.
Show up for in the future.
Yeah. Oh, it is. I've got some vicious things, and there's no way you're going to win these things.
Some of them you've hinted at on the radio.
And I
thank you for not ending the show.
So I'm like, no, we can't do this. So the bar manager's like, just starts laughing and laughing and laughing. So yeah, I got heckled last night, which was okay, not a big deal. And they had fun. They played the second round, and then I had a really nice couple come up afterwards and say, we really enjoyed this. And they came in and they played, and they said they came back because they were going to play cards at another bar, but they came to this bar because I was doing trivia. And over the summer, they had stopped in a couple of times with their daughter who was home from college. And they said, it's just fun. And they said it was just fun to kind of put the phone next to them and answer these questions. And the big thing for them, they came over and said hi, is they won. They won the second round. So they were the empty nesters and they won.
Nice.
And they've never won anything like this before. Like they said, it just kind of pays for the beer.
So they're coming back.
Yeah, they're going to come back.
They're going to come back. You're going to make addicts out of them.
Oh, yeah,
hey,
hopefully.
a texter here. I like to think of it, I imagine this segment as free association radio.
Yes, it is.
And I said, that's brilliant. And they said, I can honestly say there's nothing like it on Denver radio. And I said, is that a good thing?
Yeah.
We're waiting to see.
We will take that as a compliment.
Yeah. Another text, and I needed to look this up because I didn't know this is previously. And this was, hey, listen to the show. Very complimentary and said, you're a zaddy.
Zaddy.
Zaddy. Look it up, buddy, because I didn't know what it meant. So I looked it up. It's a compliment.
Do I have to get tattoos?
No, you are going to want one. You want people to heckle you with Zaddy. I looked this thing up. Like, is it a misspelling? Is there something wrong?
Yeah.
No, it's a compliment. It's encouraging to me.
Might I have to start wearing culottes to work or something?
Somebody texted in, Billy's an authority on insulting people? ?
I know.
Shocking.
I know. So shocking.
Yeah.
I've never shown that side of me ever.
If you have never called into the show, you're missing out on an opportunity to be insulted.
Yes, exactly.
But it's all in good fun, mostly.
Most of the time.
Yeah. So big plans for today then on Hump Day?
More radio, more and more trivia. I got trivia tonight. Gonna be hanging out at a really nice bar. Great crowd. I'm super excited for this one because they're very fun. It's not a theme night. So I got to spend some time delving deeper into the music and, working the gray matter a bit. And as you told yesterday, we were at the tail end of the show and my other job, Westwood One, calls and they're like, hey, somebody's sick. Want to do some radio today? Like, I'm your guy.
Oh, there it is.
Yeah, and that's what I'm going to be doing this
afternoon. Spray down the microphone.
Yep, exactly. So I'll go do 5 hours of radio after we finish up with this, and then I'll do trivia tonight.
I've made multiple trips to a place called Auto Nation on Arapahoe and the bathroom.
Oh, yeah.
But not the one at the Arapahoe.
Yeah, how'd the Auto Nation thing do with your tire? How'd that
go?
I
came back in and I was like,
store too.
I was like, hey, you guys helped me out. You fixed this nearly brand new tire I got because I had a screw driven into it. As far as I know, somebody came. It was so perfectly put in there.
Oh, yeah. Obviously.
And I was like, so I don't know if there's a guy goes, yeah, maybe the plug came out. We'll take a look. So I go sit in their little waiting room area, do a KDVR interview while I'm in there. I'm just like, is it okay to have Toyota as the background? And these reporters are just like, I don't care. So I'm like, great. So I do it. And then, and it was on an interesting case out of Greeley where a young couple in their early 20s are in their house. Dude comes in to break in.
I saw that. I got it over here.
And there's like a shootout in between. Okay, you're going to talk about it.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk about that.
We'll get there. We'll get there. But anyway, so she does the interview.
Oh, wow.
And this guy tells me, he goes, hey, man, we figured out what's going on with the tire. And I'm like, yeah. And he goes, it's not the plug. It's a new piece of metal. Oh. And I go, what? Oh. I go, are these tires magnetic?
Yeah.
I mean, what's going on? And so he goes, no, but here's the deal, man. We got to order the new tire. And it probably will get here on Thursday. Probably. Oh, if not, it'll be later. And I'm like, let me make sure I understand what you're telling me. If it's not here on Thursday, it'll be after Thursday. I'm like, that is a huge fact.
Yeah,
I mean,
that is huge.
That's almost like saying, well, it's either yes or no. It's like, okay, there are no other options, right? Like it's either going to be on Thursday or later. Oh, wow. Really? I thought it might be today. If it's not Thursday.
Yeah.
But super nice guy.
You're sure in that big room, not the tires. You don't have any of those.
I go and none. They don't have it. I go in to get the keys and stuff.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, here's this piece of metal. And it's this bizarre, super narrow, broken off piece of metal from something I can't identify where it got broken. It was a super jagged, sharp edge. No idea why it's in the street. No idea, or parking lot. No idea how it happened. But nonetheless, so I'm on the donut and I'm like, well, look, what are the limits again on the donut thing? Like, what am I not supposed to do?
Can't go over 55.
That's what he said. You can't go over 55. And I'm recounting in my mind driving there at 70. And I'm like on the donut and I'm like, what? Never mind. I'll be good. I'll be fine. And so meanwhile, I'm that road hazard. I'm the guy that I hurl insults at when I'm driving down the road. Like, that's great. What's wrong with you, dude?
Yeah, exactly.
It's 75 miles an hour, man. Like, what's going on? And I look for some old dude. And now I'm the old dude. People are going to drive by and look at, old guys, man. I mean, it's the donut. Look at the donut.
My wife's favorite one that I yell often, and sometimes I will even yell this outside of the car, is, "It's the pedal on the right. Push the one on the right." I will yell that sometimes.
Or the others, which are, it says, I've screamed this only because I heard another buddy of mine who I teach with scream it out the window.
Yeah.
As we're driving down an off ramp, he's yelling, "It says yield, not effing panic." not effing panic.
I am stealing that. I am stealing that one. Oh, that is going to go in the
so
pockets, and we are
ridiculous.
saving that for later.
So my hope is by this weekend,
Oh.
which is when T gets to come back from CSU for Thanksgiving break and stuff. My hope is that I've got a car that can actually drive the speed limit.
Ugh. Now, there is, okay, we're gonna go grab Spencer Friday. Do be careful if you're if
Trey's driving back. Yeah.
If he's going back, be careful right around Thanksgiving weekend. There have been some
after or before.
There's windows on both.
Okay.
Before, like right before Thanksgiving weekend and right after, there are some window advisories that have been released by AAA that the stretch of road that runs from Fort Collins to Denver.
That's called I-25.
Yeah, I know, but I'm just saying the idea right there. That runs right before Thanksgiving weekend, and then the one going from Denver to Fort Collins after Thanksgiving weekend will be among the top busiest roads in America during the time. Yeah, so basically the key is if he's now, luckily he's going to be traveling this weekend, so he's not going to worry about before Thanksgiving, but after Thanksgiving, the key is leave early. The earlier he gets on the road, it doesn't matter. Does not matter.
So if he's going to go back on the latest date, you're saying Sunday.
Yep. Go back earlier, the better.
Okay.
Basically think by the time that you hit noon, it's going to be a parking lot.
Wow.
So you've got to get
How do you know this, man? What website are you on?
Actually, it was our friends at KDVR that posted it earlier this week. But it's those weird little things that I run across and then I ingest. And then they're of no use until we have things like this. We have conversations like this.
You are, whoever said it on the text, and they may have been saying something. I said, you are Cliff Clavin on the radio. You are like, know me. Let me tell you about the Southeast Swall that's coming up there from the.
I'm a fountain of mostly useless knowledge.
It's just
awful.
how the fountain got built. That's what I'm interested in. Where is it coming from?
I have no idea. I imagine it was, some scientists, some Renaissance people, and a lot of people that were really drunk.
No, the most revelatory thing you've said was when you got hypnotized / tranced into an hour of baboon hygiene or whatever it was.
Oh, yeah. No,
hyena hygiene. That's what it was.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, what?
Oh, it's fantastic.
Maybe if you're in prison, maybe.
I did this past weekend. You know what? It was the cuttlefish. Dude.
No.
Dude.
Oh, dude. You can't. Don't let the name suck you in. Don't do it.
I'm a huge fan of octopi. I love the octopi. That's my favorite water animal. And so absolutely, hands down, no question. Love me some octopus.
What's the difference between octopi plural?
Yeah.
Octopus. It's not octopuses.
No, octopuses is this?
It's awkward.
Yeah, it is awkward.
Or the James Bond movie.
Yeah. I know. Saw that with my dad. That was an interesting conversation.
Oh my God. Is there anything worse than this?
I know.
At least there's no nudity, because there's always that awkward moment where you're sitting with a parent, and I know my kids now are going to go through this, and there's a boob.
Yep.
And it's like you don't know what to do.
Oh yeah. And during that movie, and I love the fact that, and it still is one of my special memories in my heart with my father, is him taking me
with your dad.
Sitting there, and just the fact that he would take me, because he loved James Bond. He had the original Ian Fleming books. And I remember him watching one of the early ones. I was Dr. No, and I catch up with it. And he talks to me about it. And he says, here, and he hands me the Dr. No book. And he goes, read this. I'm like, okay.
They're great.
So I fell into it. And then after that, it was kind of a love affair between the movies. And it was a dual thing that we would do. We'd sit down, we'd watch them together. So when a new one came out, the fact that he took me was great. And it was wonderful. But I still remember that, where, you kind of get that boom, that music starts going. And James says, well, and he's making the moves. And I remember distinctly sitting next to my dad going, this is going to get real awkward pretty quickly if things go the way I think.
Oh, yeah.
And because you can't, as a kid, you can't go, boobs. You can't get excited.
And you can't look at your dad and give him that knowing nod, like, hey, nice. Like,
those are some nice
must
ones.
Be cold on set. You can't do any of that stuff.
No, not at all.
And as a dad, I'm like, what do I do?
Yeah.
Do I look and give them permission to be like,
yes,
son, it's a boob?
It's a boob.
I mean, what
turning smiling and give him a thumbs up is awkward.
It would be worse with Amanda. It would be worse with just sort of that. I feel like I'd have to pretend sneeze to miss it on screen. Like, could you? Oh, what did I miss?
Oh, yeah. Oh,
wow.
Oh, gosh, yeah. I have to go to the bathroom. Imagine
Oh
this,
my gosh.
this soda's just going right through me.
This now reminds me, and you're going to remember this.
Yeah.
There's a guy named Hickenlooper. He used to be the mayor, then governor, now U.S. senator.
Yeah, he didn't want to be a senator, I think.
No, he didn't. He said he'd be bad at it.
Yeah,
he wrote a book. I don't know if you know this. And by he wrote a book, I mean somebody else wrote a book and he put his name on it.
Is it a word jumble?
It's about his life. In the book, he reveals that his mom took him to go see Behind the Green Door.
Oh, yeah,
or something like that, or Deep Throat. It was one of the two.
One of those, yeah.
And I was like, what?
Yeah.
I mean, it's super awkward if there's a single boob. This is a whole sex movie his mom took him to go see.
And there are moments like that, you're like,
or maybe he took her to see it.
I don't know. But
either way.
Yeah, either way. I'm kind of like, explains a lot.
And at what point,
really does.
At no point during the revelation of this story, which was some years ago, at no point does he say, hey, as soon as we figured out what it was, one or both of us left the theater. No. It was like, just out of a sense of thank you for paying for the movie ticket. They both sat there and rummaged through the popcorn. And whose lap was it on?
Exactly.
I mean, you can't.
And you
super awkward.
It's like you get part of the way through it and you're like, well, is she really going to see the entire city of Dallas? I mean, there's the questions you have. Thank you for laughing at that one. Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you.
Oh, my Lord. This is this again, it highlights the difference between someone who Colorado voters support and they don't. It's because I didn't go see porn with my parents.
You did it. Yeah, exactly. And there are things you look back on some of those awkwardnesses and you're like, oh, so, he's not really good in public. He has problems sometimes in interpersonal relationships.
He's talking
to people. Yeah. And oh, he watched porn with his parents. I think we found a good cause here.
Like, what is going on?
I cannot imagine why seeing that with your parents would cause you to have some, I don't know, interpersonal quirkiness later on in life. Call me silly.
I don't. I mean,
I don't know.
Oh, just the movies from my youth that I saw that I'm sure my folks didn't know about because, cable.
Yes.
We had cable. But, Meatballs was the innocuous version, but Revenge of the Nerds?
There was some that,
I mean, there's some stuff going on there.
And there was that whole genre of late 80s, early 90s comedy movies, which you just had the one female actress who was on set, and the only purpose she had was to wear tight shirts and eventually be topless. That was her entire role in the movie.
Which I'm hopeful that there is a mid-50s version of that coming for Denver. I just I don't know if that's possible. Like, I've watched The Golden Bachelor. Folks, please don't. Listen, I don't know how I fell into this trap. I don't understand.
Was the remote broken?
No, listen, you know what it was? It was like you're driving by a car accident and you tell yourself, I'm not going to be that guy that drives and looks by the car accident. And pretty soon I'm like, ooh, is that blood? Ooh, I wonder, I'm that guy. So somehow I can't explain it. I really don't want to explain it. Watch the first episode of The Golden Bachelor. And I'm so appalled at sort of how the whole thing is produced. I've never seen the other Bachelor, so I don't have any frame of reference.
Oh, okay.
But I watched this thing, and now I'm hooked, and I can't. I mean, this dude Gary, who kind of talks like this. I mean, he kind of talks like what's his name from Over the Hill, Hank. He kind of talks like Hank, and he seems like a super decent guy. By the way, dude is well preserved. He's like in his 70s, but this guy has skin I wish I had. And he's in great shape. Good dude. Jeez. Super nice guy. But here he is over the course of weeks macking on these other women. And this, I'm not like little pecks on the cheek. I'm talking about lips and probably some other stuff.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm like, you're a whore. Like, what's going on, man? And it's just like, but he's this super nice guy who's like, well, I don't want to break anybody's heart. But these ladies, they're also, and then all of a sudden he's giving away roses. There's a dude on the show. I think his name is Jesse.
Okay.
Who is like, he reminds me of Pulp Fiction when at one point the dude Zed turns and says, bring out the gimp.
Yeah.
This guy is the gimp in many ways because he's the younger dude.
Yeah.
And so there's like a silver plate full of roses. And apparently when you give a rose to someone, it's your signal that you've made it into next week's show.
Exactly. You have your pass. Yeah.
After he gives away, over the course of the weeks, there's less and less roses because there's less and less people. At one point, and he does this every show, there are 3 roses.
Yeah.
Gary has given away 2 of them. And at the same point in every show, the gimp comes out. He's got his hands over his crotch and he looks at the women earnestly and he says, ladies, this is the last rose. And then he walks off, and I'm like,
count.
what is that role? I mean, that's at least the ball boys in tennis are doing something. This guy comes out to say, in case many of you are suffering from macular degeneration or a corneal disease, this is the last rose. If you've lost count from 3, 2 have been given. There is one rose left. Like, what is the who choreographed this nonsense? That's what he does.
Ridiculous. Oh, that's ridiculous. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of special something.
Hang on air.
Well, we'd have to go to the bathroom and then later.
No.
After you get done with the Golden Bachelor, do yourself a favor. Go back and watch the episodes when Travis Kelce of the Kansas City Chiefs was on The Bachelor.
No.
Do yourself a favor.
He was?
Yes.
Like a whole season?
Yes, and it is a clown show. It is absolutely hilarious because let's just say that Kelce, and this is why I'm concerned about his relationship with Taylor Swift.
I think it's fake, by the way. I think it's so fake.
I don't know. They were doing some lip smacking in Buenos Aires.
But I mean, as Gary has taught us from the Golden Bachelor, that doesn't mean anything. You're not getting a rose.
But again, it's she while in Buenos Aires, Taylor changed one of the lyrics to a song.
I saw it.
And I hear that in Hollywood, that's how you know you're going steady. If you do that, then all of a sudden you're an idol.
Listen, what does it say? What did you? Was it you that told me this? That there's a picture of them walking hand in hand. It's like, oh look, Taylor took out her next album.
Yep, exactly. That's exactly it. And so Travis, let's just say that he has very, very bad radar of the female persuasion. He cannot figure out which ones are psychos. And there is a couple of them in there that are absolute just chaos in a pretty dress. And he leans in hard to one of them. And
how old is he again? Is he in his 20s?
I don't know.
Danger time for dudes, man. Danger time.
And he's way too much like, I mean, again, great athlete, wonderful. But dude, he cannot figure it out. He can't see things in front of his face that are happening. And it is remarkable. If you want to sit there and just giggle at
I'm going to do it.
Clueless.
How long ago was this thing?
Couple years, probably.
Couple years?
Yeah, I think.
Travis Kelce, huh?
Yeah.
I still think the whole, until they're walking down the aisle, and even then I'll be like, it just feels forced. It feels forced.
Yeah.
Like she is very protective of her private life until it goes bad, which it will. But in this case, she does this big dramatic, cameras are there running to the side of the stage to throw the arms around. I don't know. I don't know.
Yeah, her life is so calculated. There is a portion of
it. But a genius, man. She's a billionaire. She's a genius.
Again, I've said this off the air and on the air. She is this generation's Michael Jackson without all the weird things with the kids.
Well, as far as we know.
Yeah.
I mean,
but just
don't jinx her.
Absolutely brilliant. And I've got a number of people that have dealt with her off stage and things like that behind the scenes. Fantastic. Really good. Really buttoned up, but very much a don't F around. We're going to, she dots the I's, crosses the T's because the machine has to move. I was going to ask you, do you have construction going on in your neighborhood?
Yes.
That's probably where you're.
I was thinking the same thing. Yeah. There was some stuff going on, but why broken metal? Like, what are they doing that there's broken metal in the street?
I have no idea. And just so you know, we had a tire issue yesterday in my wife's Mercedes. She has a tire leak, and she's like, it was slow on the way going to work. It's lower now. I'm going to stop at Big O in the neighborhood and just see if they take a look at it. It was a screw. She had run over a screw just like you.
Dang it.
Yeah. 20 minutes later, we're back out on the road. Yeah, they were just fine.
Okay, so that's no charge?
No charge.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And the people.
What was this place? Big O?
Big O. Now, the Big O, it's one that is in our neighborhood.
Which is also a movie that Hickenlooper took his mom to, which is weird. The Big O.
It is very strange. It was a double feature. Yeah. And there was a joke about what snacks they were serving, but I'm not going to make that joke.
Oh, God.
So the
goobers.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the certain types of and the Big O, we have spent, let's just say, a lot of money there. That's the easiest way to put it. And the owner and the manager know us because
Billy.
Yeah. They're like, yay, I can pay my rent this week. Yeah. So that's kind of the thing.
Everybody.
Yeah.
Late lunch for everyone.
We have spent a lot of money there. They know us. And so little things like that, they'll do us solids. They're like, okay, don't worry about it. We'll take care of this. We'll take care of this.
Billy.
There's a lot of times where they do that for us.
If the texts are a reflection of the show.
Yeah.
Here's a sampling of what we've done this morning. You two are so ADD, ADHD.
Yes.
is this National Enquirer radio. That's our friend Alexa right there.
Yeah,
and then the people chiming in to help us out here. Debbie does Dallas actress after the movie. She is forever lost. No one has ever heard or seen again.
Oh, wow.
Trivia for Billy, Linda Lovelace from Deep Throat is buried in the Parker Cemetery. I didn't know that.
We may have to have a road trip.
I have done multiple Memorial Day events at that.
Really?
Yes. That's going to be built into the next conversation.
You missed an opportunity.
Did you say you watched geriatric porn? No, I didn't say that at all.
It was the Cinemax version. It was softcore.
Somebody heard the Hickenlooper takes his mom to porn thing and combined it with the Golden Bachelor, and all of a sudden it's behind the Golden Green Door or something like that.
Yes, or behind the nursing home door.
It says,
it's like, ooh, baby.
This
ooh,
is
baby. Ow, my hip.
You guys, I live for the first 20 to 40 minutes of this show. You're killing me in the best way.
Oh,
another one.
That is so kind, but you need therapy.
I've said this before, and now I'm totally convinced. Billy sleeps in a Holiday Inn Express.
Yes, I do. With a bag of my native soil.
And then now someone has sent us a YouTube clip. I don't even know if I should click on it. Like, this is the signal to the Salem people. Discretion has gone completely out the window. Listen, here's what I want to do. We're still
click that link. Click that link.
Off air. I don't know what happens here. And then I ran over a bolt one time. Strangest thing the tire guy ever saw. Well, I can't. I'd have to know more about the bolt and its shape. And anyway, listen, here's the deal. If you want to feel good, first listen to the first segment of the 6 o'clock show. It is largely unregulated, and but for the listeners, unmonitored by management, both nationally and locally. And man, we really appreciate that part. But the other way you can feel better is if you go out there and try this all natural product that Billy and I have tried called it's called Ultra Cur, and it's C-U, I swear it's an umlaut over it. C-U umlaut R. The umlaut's the two little periods like a German word. But Ultra Cur is this patented all natural thing. It's available for free, and not forever for free, but I mean like the first 3-day supply for free at your natural grocers, right? I don't think you can go online and get it for free. You can order the product online, but I think if you're going to do the free thing, what they really want you to do is they don't want you to just buy it. They're like, listen, test us. Go out there and try the 3-day free sample. And if that makes you feel better because it deals with things like inflammation, oxidation, aging, all this stuff. And I'm telling you personally, when I took it, it didn't like keep the pain from showing up. But when old man here put his feet on the ground repeatedly and ran a bunch, my knees and my Achilles area, I'm telling you, would always ache for a couple days. When I took the Ultra Cur, it would ache for not as long. And I'm talking about a day or less. That matters to me. That's a big deal. I can't imagine what it would do for someone else with more serious, maybe inflammation issues. Go to the natural grocers, go to the vitamin manager. There is one, and you have to. This stuff just isn't sitting out on the shelf. Go say, hey, listen, I listened to George. I'd like to try that 3-day free supply. And by the way, they keep running out of this is what I've been told. So when you get there, and you should go there today, you can get it for you. You can get it for a friend, a loved one. Within 3 days, you're going to experience something. That's not me saying it. That's their studies saying it, that say within, I think, 48 hours, 50% of everybody's feeling something. Within that group, 50% of them feel improvement within 2 hours. It doesn't cost you anything except the time to go to the natural grocers. And when it works, that's when you go to getultranow.com, and you can check out the ingredients there too, but getultranow.com, and then buy your longer term solution to some of those pain problems. It's getultranow.com, but I just go to your natural grocers, ask the vitamin manager for your free 3-day supply. Listen, when we come back, we're going to get to the good stuff. That's the Thorpe Report, always uplifting, and then the super uplifting. You choose the news. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. is time, folks, to transition from, we still don't know how to describe that, but we do know how to describe the next section. It's called the Thorpe Report with BT.
Yes, sir. I have news burning for you in my hands. See what I did there with the
yeah, that's great.
Okay, thank you. Okay, much cooler weather today. Potentially snowy as we move into our Thanksgiving weekend. Cooler weather in Denver probably starts in earnest on Sunday. Could have some impacts on the Broncos' home game against the Vikings that is going to be happening Sunday evening. Right now, it's kickoff right around 6 o'clock. But it's only because they can't make us play in the dark overnight where nobody can see us. Just saying, it's an idea. Colder weather looks like it will continue throughout next week, and we could see a lot of cold and low pressure by the time we get into the Thanksgiving weekend.
Oh.
Yeah, the suspect, and again, my meteorologist friend that I trust says that we got a big break coming after Thanksgiving weekend. That all of a sudden,
yeah, you teased us with that yesterday, man.
Yeah, he says that that's what he sees right now.
Snowmageddon.
Based on weather patterns, but he said again, because the highs and the lows like to push each other around, things can change.
Honestly, listen, if it turns out to be true, let's do the weather with that guy. Let's have that guy tell
He's
you
fantastic.
every day, here's what's going to happen.
Yeah, he's an old radio guy. He used to do stuff on Cozy. Everybody would recognize him. Yeah, Steve Hamilton, really good guy.
Well, let's do that. If he knows his weather, hell.
Dude. Yeah, I'll talk to him. Suspect accused of killing 10 people at a Boulder King Supers pleaded not guilty by reason of insanity yesterday. That was interesting. Yeah, especially because the insane person had, for several weeks beforehand, looked at the best ways to shoot and how to quickly reload a gun. And
look at we could talk in detail about that. It's very interesting, and I am the beneficiary of people presuming that insanity precludes a certain level of preparation. And I understand that because I do think that that's definitely a relevant factor. I just think this guy, you have nowhere to go in this modern era. They catch you in the store with the gun that killed 10 people. You can't say it was self-defense. You can't say it was intoxication. I mean, there's one out, and the law gave it to you, and that's insanity. So it doesn't matter. I mean, whether he's
really
insane or not.
And it is, and the dimension, I think, if we had more time, I'd love to discuss that. What is that arc of insanity? When and how long does that hold? Can I be insane for the 6 months I'm planning the crime and then I'm okay after and not?
It's a great question.
I'm just curious about that.
Maybe we'll do that in the 9 at some point. We've got stuff set up before that, but maybe we'll do some stuff in the 9 about
how that applies. 2 men were charged with multiple offenses in connection with a deadly shooting outside the Denver Motorcycle Club recently. DA's office announced that yesterday. It happened at 3 a.m. November 5th. Not the announcement, but the shooting. Hell's Lovers Motorcycle Club, because that would be weird.
Hell's Lovers.
Yeah, I know. It's just such a weird visual.
What were the names they rejected?
Exactly. Yes. Satan's good buddies. I mean, I don't understand. I don't. Oh, well. There were
Golden Bachelors. I mean, what are they?
Now, the incident happened after security guards removed a group of women from the bar. That's a new one. One of the women is related to Todd Washington, 40 years old. Documents said Washington came into the bar. Washington and Sean McPherson then confronted security at the front of the building. They were asked to leave. Then they, of course, raised their guns and threatened people. And that's when everybody opened fire. 7 people being shot. So
I imagine those guys are also insane.
Yes, exactly. Absolutely. The home invasion suspect who allegedly shot, you talked about this, a resident of a Greeley home during an attempted break-in was shot himself and is now facing charges. Greeley police say a 26-year-old was trying to break into a home on Montview Boulevard around 5 o'clock in the evening on Saturday. Home was occupied by a 26-year-old woman, 24-year-old man. As the suspect was attempting to kick open the door, he allegedly fired several rounds into the home. So as the suspect is trying to break in, he's shooting through the door. He struck the 24-year-old in the arm. The male resident returned fire, striking the intruder in the abdomen. 24-year-old man transported to the hospital. That's a good place to hit him, too.
Yeah.
Then so basically the victim showed up at the
This is weird. Later. It's weird to me. I don't know more about the case, but that is anomalistic behavior for someone who's looking to burglarize a home.
Yeah, to shoot
like there has to be some other, I don't know if it's a relationship, a connection, but that's really bizarre behavior because usually you're breaking into a home. The minute you meet any sort of resistance or detection, it's runaway time.
Exactly. The other part that shocked me was, one, he's kicking down the door, which is an odd behavior for breaking in.
Pretty violent.
Yeah, because it's violent. 2, the opening fire. That is announcing your presence. And that's weird in the neighborhood. Is 9 times out of 10 when you're burglarizing something, you don't want people to be aware of it. And by opening fire, he announces his presence.
That's why I think there has to be something else going on here, because this isn't a I want to avoid detection thing. I'm not. I have no interest in really getting away with it. I want to kill the people on the inside. Or so. It could be a home invasion robbery. That could be true. Yeah. but man, is it intense and aggressive. It's very interesting to me. I want to know more about this guy.
And I just noticed our time. I got to fly through these last ones so we can do some stuff with the funny stuff. We got 2 more Coloradans that have been arrested for breaching the Capitol on January 6th, a 37-year-old and a 31-year-old, one of Monument, one in Colorado Springs. One of the stories I thought was super interesting, though, is we have a detective at Federal Heights Police Department. They investigated them and found over a course of 3 years, 2 detectives were in charge of investigating.
This is a great case.
Over 600 cases. That's crazy. 2 people tasked over 3 years for 600 cases. That's crazy. And the other one was we have a teacher fired in Parker after a school shooting lockdown drill. She then was upset that the second graders were talking during the drill and not paying attention. So she decided to show her second grade class news clips of the shooting in Uvalde, Texas, and the Covenant School in Nashville.
Wait a minute. What does she show them when they don't pay attention during sex ed?
I know. Yeah. That's Debbie.
What kind of judgment is
she
that?
She shows them the Golden Bachelor.
Yeah. Let's call up the senator and have him take us to the movies.
And the school has fired the teacher since then. It was a charter school at the time, and she was a second grade Spanish teacher. That's all I got. I just think that's interesting that her solution was to show them the traumatic incident.
Yeah.
I don't know about that.
You'll never sleep again, kids. How about them apples? Don't you wish you'd have paid attention? It's when we come back, it's going to be far more uplifting, or at least interesting. It's going to be called You Choose the News. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Ran away to use the bathroom. You just messed up because it's time. You use the news.
Sure, it is that time again for us to play everybody's favorite Baker Radio News game show. You choose the news. We have scoured the interwebs for mere moments to find really dumb stories about us humans and given them dumb headlines to play this ridiculous fake news game because they seem to let us. And so we're as confused as you are. All righty, sir. Here are your headlines this morning. Headline number 1, our government in action. Headline number 2, Ricky Ticky T-Box. Headline number 3, sorry, Neil says I'm going to be late for work. And headline number 4, 2 rights don't equal a left. Your headlines yet again are government in action.
You got Ricky Ticky in there. Just so I can say it again. Ricky Ticky, whatever.
Ricky Ticky T-Box. Here we are going to visit the Atlantic Beach Golf Club in Cape Town, South Africa. When you step into the tee box, there's a lot of things on your mind, but getting bitten by a giant cobra, normally not one of them. But on this day, that's what you'd have to watch out for. A golfer at the Atlantic Beach Golf Club shows a giant Cape cobra coming out onto the tee box and start threatening the humans involved. At first, it looks like, snake attack. But if you look at the video in the background, it's running away from a mongoose. There was a mongoose that was hunting it, and it's coming out of the woods onto the golf course to avoid getting eaten. So, yeah, but Cape cobras are big, golden, gorgeous, brownish colors.
Well,
they're beautiful snakes.
You are the snake lover.
Yeah, they're gorgeous snakes. Alrighty. Our government in action. Sorry, Neil says I'm going to be late for work.
2 rights don't make a left.
2 rights don't equal a left. You might recognize that from the famous book BFG, the Big Friendly Giant.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
What's the F for?
A former Sweet Home City Council member in Portland, Oregon, has gone viral after saying, "I seen the Giants." Yes, he posted a video saying that recently he was traveling in the mountain areas around town, and he thinks he saw a giant. He said there was a big rock formation. Part of the rock looked like a door, and something or someone opened that door. Looking back out at me was a giant, I say, a giant. And since he's gone viral and even the military is now getting involved, the Army Corps of Engineers says, folks, don't go walking around in the mountains looking for things like caves and things with giants in them. They don't exist, and you're probably going to get hurt. So, yeah. But again, he used to be in city government. Explains a lot.
Of course he did.
Yeah, in Portland.
I could have predicted that.
The final one. Our government in action. Or sorry, Neil says, I'm going to be late for work.
Our government in action.
Yes, this is our government in action. It is not every day that our government needs to leap to our defense, but the government of Maine has to, because they are responsible for keeping all of our private information safe and secure, and they suck at it. Recently, the government of Maine admitted that everybody's information has been stolen.
Oh, hello.
Everyone. The entire population of Maine, 1.3 million individuals are affected by this data breach. Here's the fun part. This happened about the end of May is when they found out.
How is this not coming for everyone?
And they're only telling us now. Maine has just announced it in the last week. Hey, guys, back in May, everybody took your stuff and your information. Not like any of the residents of Maine may have wanted to, I don't know, contact people and
love the idea of
just things about
stepping over the corpse in the middle of the hallway for 6 months. Like, when are we going to tell someone?
When should
There's
we
a dead body right there.
Yes. Yeah, and they found a hacker conglomerate that basically does ransomware found a back door in a tool that the government uses because it's an old tool. Yeah, government's using tool. Imagine that. So because they hadn't updated their systems, they were able to hack in, and they took everybody's data. I mean, if you are a resident of Maine, they have your stuff. Everything, lock, stock, and barrel. Over 1 million residents.
Nothing but the best.
In one big swoop. Yep, that's your government in action, and my job is done here.
Thank you, Billy. Once again, an uplifting response to the Thorpe report. Listen, when we come back, we told you yesterday we're going to have Josh Sharf back on to tell us how things went at the melee / I don't know, rally that took place in Washington, D.C. And then I want to tell you about a big government education plan that's coming for you. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. at the 7 o'clock hour on the George Show on 710 KNUS. Just a few more hours until Charlie Kirk takes over from 10 to 11. Dennis Prager from 11 to 1. Seb Gorka 1 to 3. And then live and local, I think once again with the kid, Jimmy Sengenberger. And then 4 to 7 o'clock, Officer Brandon Tatum. It's just I have not been in the car enough to be able to give a good listen to the show. I've heard different segments, and I've liked what I've heard. I just have not been able to sit through like an entire hour. But take a listen to that. I'm going to keep trying to get in there. I'm sure at some point I'll stop having to care about tires on my car and all the other stuff, and I'll give a good listen, but you ought to do that too. Until then, you're stuck with Big Daddy right here from 7 to 10. Listen, yesterday we had on Josh Scharf. Josh traveled to Washington, D.C. yesterday. And if you listen to the interview, you know he went there to, and I'm using his words, get into a fight with someone who likes Hamas. It was almost verbatim. I don't know if that happened, but we're going to interview him right now to find out. We're going to get the update. Josh Scharf, you're on 710. Sir, thanks for joining us. Are you in custody?
Yeah, but you should see the other guy. No. There was,
it would have been funnier if you had said you should see the other gal.
The other guy. I never. It depends on how they identify. But
how did it turn out, man? How was it?
Well, fortunately, we can start with that. Fortunately, apparently there were counter protesters, but I didn't see them.
Wow.
There were some that were apparently up closer to the stage, and the way they have it blocked off on the mall, closer to the stage would mean maybe 100, 200 yards away.
Okay.
On the outside of a fence. And there were some, and they were chanting, and they were trying to make themselves heard, and drown out the speakers.
Sure,
but
of course, who wouldn't?
but with actual physical speaker, audio speakers to amplify, they were forced into the role of being good children. That is, they were mostly seen and not heard. So I wasn't even aware there. The only thing I saw was like one lone Palestinian flag desecrating the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, which was a mile away from where the action, from where the rally was. And then I think there was, there was like one guy somewhere else. I mean, I didn't see anything, which was good. And it wasn't, they didn't try particularly hard, and we can all be grateful for that. So
listen, around the country back in, I don't know what it was, 1971, let's say. No, I'm sorry, 1969. 2 million people across America on this day right now protested in favor of ending the Vietnam War and having a moratorium. Yesterday, you guys amassed nearly 300,000 people in one location right there. I mean, I'm looking at pictures of this thing. That's a pretty dang good turnout, man.
Well, if you remember yesterday, you sort of asked me for a ballpark.
Yeah.
I said, well, I expect it'll be over 100. It's possible. I wouldn't be surprised, but I wouldn't expect it if we got to 200, maybe 250. Never did I think we would get to 300. And to me, and it was, this is both a, understand where this is coming from. It was basically just a Jewish crowd. There were some Christians there, and that is a great thing.
Yes.
It was make sure to thank people who show up when it's not them personally, but they're there on your behalf. So there were some Christians there, but it was put together by umbrella Jewish organizations, and so their reach and I think their intent was primarily to get Jews to show up, and we did. I mean, somebody pointed out that that's like 5% or so of the entire Jewish population of the United States.
Dang.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah,
that's impressive. Hey, I want to commend a speech to you that I heard on a podcast, and it's by Barry Weiss. I don't know if you know who Barry Weiss is.
Yes, I did. I saw this. It's the Federalist Society.
Yes, buddy. I listened to it last night. It's compelling. It is. She does such a nice job. Now, clearly she's reading it, but she has a very listenable reading voice, and the content is just, it's compelling. And for folks out there listening at 710, go find this thing online. It is Barry Weiss, Bari Weiss, a speech that she was asked to give as the keynote for the Barbara K. Olson speech for the Federalist Society out there in DC. And it's about October the 7th and all this other stuff. And it was great. Have you listened to this thing, man?
Yeah. I mean, she's very funny, and she acknowledges that. Aside from her, aside from the general theme of the speech, there's something bigger there, which is really important.
Yes.
That
Yeah.
she's to the left, but she's center left. She's not crazy left. And before all this happened, I say before all this happened, let's say 3 or 4 years ago, when this stuff really started to just the woke identity politics sort of took over the world. She would have been, we would have disagreed on 95% of policy, just sort of conventional discussion policy, American policy. And yet there she is giving a speech to the Federalist Society. And the point of their inviting her, and the point of her speech is we, that is liberals and conservatives, can be civic friends, meaning we can all belong to the same civil society. We can all operate under the same rules. We can have discussions and even arguments about where society ought to go, and what sort of policies we should have. But these guys can't, because these guys want to destroy what we have. And we need to, and she's talking really about people that she had considered friends and allies on the left, who she now realizes are hostile to everything we as Americans stand for. And an existential threat. An existential threat to of course Jews. She was. I'll point out just quickly. She was an editor at the New York Times. She came up to the opinion side, so she never did reporting. But she was an editor at the New York Times, and basically the children threw a tantrum and forced her out.
She what I found compelling about the speech in part was she says every time and every generation someone tries to destroy, some group, some person tries to destroy the Jews. And she said it's the longest running joke in
Right.
Jewish circles that it's like, hey, someone's trying to wipe us out. Now let's eat. You know what I mean? And they failed. Let's eat.
No, that was right.
But
a lot of the holidays.
That's right. But she says, I just thought this was very insightful. She said, every time this happens, this surge of anti-Semitism, it's never just about the Jews. This is almost like a canary in the coal mine about something else that is going on in society every single time. And then she starts to go through it and talking about things. And to hear it from a liberal, to hear it from someone who's center left, describing the kind of that DEI wokeism, the things going on campuses and the anecdotes and all this, I was like, man, she's really captured, I think, some of the problems. So if you're out there listening at 710, chances are you're probably a conservative or pretty close to the center and stuff like that. You got to listen to this. I found it really insightful, well done. Yes, funny at times, but I don't know, poignant. I mean, it was a really good speech. Maybe one of the better ones I've ever heard. It was really good.
Yeah, and I think this is what's striking about what's going on now is that this is the first time, really, that Jews overseas and Jews in the United States have both, or Jews, I should say, Jews, let's say Israel and Jews overseas, have faced meaning overseas from Israel, outside, have faced simultaneous threats. That normally, it was something going on camp. There was something isolated on campus, something going on in Europe. Well, very rarely here in the U.S. Never really here in the U.S. That's what makes it so alarming. But there was something going on in Europe, or there was a war in Israel. But this is the first time where this is sort of unified, and that's what makes it so alarming. And that's what's sort of caused. Like I say, I have friends of mine in Israel who have said, I'm really more concerned about what's going on overseas than I am here. And I mean, they're worried about it. They don't want to get hit by a rocket, but and of course over here, we're more concerned really for the survival of the people over there. It's an interesting dynamic that we haven't seen, sort of between the Jewish people outside of Israel and Israel itself. And I think, without, we don't really have too much time to explore this, but there's an article, I'll have to, I'll send you the link, and then maybe you can, or I'll send Bill the link, and maybe you can put it up. But there was a study released earlier, I think it was April of this year, about how Islamist anti-Semitism had made common cause with the identity politics, the DEI, the identity politics, leftism in the West. Now, this is in April, before all of this blows up, and it's written by a slight friend of mine. We were slightly when we were in DC, named Yehudit Barsky. She's very good. She's spent her entire career studying this sort of thing. And to me, that's the common, that's kind of the common thread here, is that's the military threat that's going on over there. It's the ideological threat that's permeated the left here.
The last thing that Barry says at the end, sort of her summation paragraph, kind of speaks a little bit to what's going on in the response to it. And that is, we must fight, right? Like, we must call this stuff out when it happens. She talks about the free speech stuff that we've talked about, and she's big on that, man. She's big on free speech. And at one point, as she's decrying what has happened to the country culturally and educationally, she's saying we have replaced ideas with identity. Do you know what I mean? Like, and she goes through a series of these things. I was just taken with it, and I feel like we're missing that even here in Colorado. I mean, when you have a Tim Hernandez, smiling Tim Hernandez in a suit, newly appointed member of the legislature, dancing on the steps of the Capitol as Israelis are being slaughtered by Hamas during this entire event. And only the Jewish member of the state Senate comes out and calls him out by name. Everybody else dances around it. That's absolutely the wrong answer. I don't understand. Other than politics, you simply can't explain why Jared Polis, Phil Weiser, and Jenna Griswold would not call him out by name and decry what he did. Because you and I know, if it had been Dave Williams on those stairs, we'd still be burning him in effigy in front of the Capitol.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that, and it's a real problem when this is right. This is your brain on partisanship. And this is what happens. People see whatever coalition, whatever else they care about, as being more important than this thing. And I think part of it, honestly, is they don't see this thing as being a threat. It's hard. And you say, well, how can they not? I said, because it's hard to wrap your head around. I mean, like I say, this country, from its beginning, and when I say from its beginning, I mean like the 1600s, has been different for Jews, and so this idea that suddenly there's this element here which looks very familiar from elsewhere is hard for people really to wrap their heads around. And so, and again, I don't mean to say we're about to turn it. People say, well, it's 1933 Germany here. No, it's not. But it's the kind of thing where where it just, because we've been so familiar with it being different, the fact that this stuff even shows up, and then who knows where we are a generation or two from now, is really disturbing and really threatening. And it's hard for people to imagine. It's easier to kind of slide by it and not do that. And I give Daphne a lot of credit. You're right. She named Daphne
Janae Michelson.
Janae Michelson. Yeah. She called him out by name. Which is something that most will say, well, we'll blame the Democrat Socialists of America. We'll blame the organization.
Right. Or, hey, we really decry everything that's going on over there. Like, no. You don't get away with that. You don't get to make a moral equivalence between the two of them. We're talking with Josh Scharf. Josh, what was the mood there with those 300,000-ish people at that rally?
So one of the interesting things about getting 300,000 people in one place is that it doesn't seem like 300,000 people when you're there, because you can't see it from above. I actually tried to go back to toward the end, to go back to the Washington Monument and go up and see if I could get a picture from up there, but unfortunately it's a time ticket entry and I couldn't do that. So in different places it was different things. I said to a friend of mine as we were walking from the metro station to the mall, it sort of feels like we ought to be singing something. I just said, we're walking, it just feels like we ought to be singing something. He said, yeah, but it's also kind of somber. I mean, what happened? There's a real war going on here, And it's not, it's hard to, even in the midst of that feeling of that big hug that everyone's giving, that emotional hug that everyone's giving each other. You need to pull back just a little bit and recognize what's really at stake. And he was right. So you got some of that. You got some people singing. You got some people. There was a nice morning prayer service. I was too late to get to there. That was apparently, for the people who went, was extremely
hold on.
meaningful.
How could you be too late, dude? You rolled in the night before.
Well, I didn't. No, I didn't. I was on the red eye, but I had to transfer it in New York. So yeah, because there's no red eye from here to DC. You have to.
Isn't that interesting? I thought there had been one from JetBlue a while back, but I have never taken it. So anyway,
yeah, well, you're don't do it. So so it was, but there was that. There was a very much a sense of purpose, and so, for instance, it was interesting. You saw some of the names on the list. Van Jones was on the list.
Oh, wow.
As one of the speakers.
Yeah.
And you're like, well, what's he doing here?
Yeah, what's he doing?
But he made a point that you don't often hear from Black leaders of his generation, which is, the Jews were there for us. We need to be there for them over something like this.
Totally true. Civil rights era? Are you kidding? Absolutely true.
And even and when I say of his generation, even as early as the late 60s or early 70s, you have Black leadership, which is sort of tired of being told that it has to be grateful. And I get that. I mean, I understand, just sort of constantly reminded that you owe this to somebody else can be really irritating. And they don't owe it to anyone, but they do, but there is a sense that, we were there for you. And he said that explicitly. Now, when he strayed off into what sort of started to sound like ceasefire land, the applause grew much dimmer. So people were aware.
Except by the people in the front, apparently.
Well, yeah, right. But people are aware of what's at stake, and it was interesting to hear in terms of the speakers some of the difference so the congressional speakers I thought were interesting. Schumer spoke, and honestly, okay.
Did he say whirlwind? Was there a whirlwind?
He did not. He fortunately, but he just sort of. I was sort of unimpressed by him, but that's just me and him. I was good for him to be there.
Yeah.
And so I'm not gonna. I don't want to dim that. But Johnson got up and said this shouldn't end. This will not end until Israel finishes Hamas. Or so I'm paraphrasing. But that's a big cheer.
Great.
There was Hakeem Jeffries, for the first time that I've heard U.S. public officials, that he's the Democratic leader in the House, when he was talking about sort of the history of anti-Semitism and was naming places that Jews had been expelled from. He went through Europe, but he also talked about the expulsion from the Arab countries, which is something that almost never gets acknowledged. And he explicitly said that. I was very pleased to hear that. And of course, Joni Ernst, Mitch McConnell wasn't there, and you can insert your own joke about his age, but Joni Ernst was there, and she also spoke very well and very supportively. So I think it was interesting to see the difference among speakers and the emphasis that they placed, but some of the things that they said was it was useful to note who said what and what was new.
Was there a call to action at this thing? I mean, how does this thing end? They just run out of speakers and people disperse? And
yeah, I mean, people kind of had to go home, but I think there was because it ended around 3:00.
Did you storm anything?
Only the metro stations. I think.
A coffee shop or something?
But possibly, yeah. But you have to be careful, not the ones with the rainbow flags, I guess. But there was people sort of had to get home, so they had to go back to the buses and everything. I think there was a sense, now go call your congressman, go call your senator. Yeah, the leadership was there, but they can't. They're politicians. They will respond to what they see their members responding to, and their members will respond to public pressure. So go call, even if it's Diana DeGette, in our case, call she is part of leadership in the House. Call her, let her know. Let Jason Crow know that he's on the wrong side with this, talking about a ceasefire.
Is he the one? Is he also calling for a ceasefire?
He kind of was. He was at least playing footsie with it. He was certainly kind of drifting in that direction. I don't know if I saw something explicit from him, but
yeah, I'd be interested to hear why. I'd love to think Jason would come on the show for a conversation, but I mean, this is a dude who's gone to war, right? Like, I mean, this is a guy who gets it, why we go to war and why we fight. I don't know. I'd be interested to know what his thoughts are.
Yeah. So, but call them, let them know, because they're getting a lot of pressure from the other side, and it's at this point only their moral sense of what's right that's keeping it in place. The administration is starting, honestly, is sort of, as I said, they've never really given up on this idea of Iran as of appeasing Iran. And yesterday of all days, but that was the day that the waivers ran out. They extended waivers that allow Iran to access something like $10 billion of cash that had been frozen.
So tell us again, what did they do?
Well, there are some waivers that initially started as allowing Iraq to buy Iranian oil, but the money had to be put in escrow. And so Trump extended it, but said the money had to be put in escrow. And then Biden has allowed them to directly access the money, and he extended that yesterday. So
allowed them to continue to access the money?
Yeah.
Based on what?
I don't. Based on when all this is over, we need to go back to what we were doing before, I suppose, because they have this committed vision of the Middle East with Iran kind of holding the lid on things, which allows us to pivot to Asia or something. I don't know, but that seems to be the strategic thinking. I mean, the flaws are obvious. You don't entrust your enemy with looking after your interests, but there we are.
Final question, Josh. Was it worth it, and will it make a difference?
I think it was worth it, and I think it will make a difference. I think people walked away kind of energized, with a sense of we're not with a sense of we're not alone, and I think it was absolutely worth it to take the day and go. Denver sent about 150 people, which was really good. A good showing from us. I think it just felt like it was important to do, and I walked away feeling that it was important to have done.
Well, man, that's great stuff. Listen, normally we talk about 8 million other things, but we have figured out a way to focus on the important events that are taking place here and abroad on the issue of Hamas and Israel. And I am really taken with what Barry Weiss said, that this is not about just Jews. This is something bigger going on in America and the world, and it's something we got to pay attention to and address. So I'm glad you're willing to come on and have these conversations.
Well, thank you for having me on, and hopefully this doesn't, hopefully we don't have to have this conversation again for a long time.
No. You've got a billion other things stuck in that noggin in the same way Billy
does.
That's
I mean, I didn't mean, I wasn't complaining.
I'm just saying you've got a lot of stuff in there in your head to talk about that's also current eventsy that I want to talk about. It's just like Billy, except useful. And that is, Billy has 8 billion things to talk about in terms of here's how you get that spot out of your yard. You know what I mean? Or here's the best way to rake a leaf, or the best snake to buy. But you actually have it, which he's probably right on. I'm just saying you have information that folks out there are probably thinking, oh, I feel smarter because of that.
Well, well, thank you, George.
That is as much for the listeners who listen to the first segment of the 6 o'clock hour as it is anything else. Because, and Josh, I know you're probably still tending to your little one at that hour or sleeping, but what takes place between 6 and roughly 6:30 is, I don't know, it's just a mess. I don't know what happens on the radio, but if you listen, you'll be like, I know exactly what George was talking about.
Well, get that mess raked up already.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, Josh Sharf, we'll have you on again in the near future. Thanks for what you're doing, man.
Thank you very much, George.
Take care, man. Hey, that was Josh Sharf. Listen, I want to cut away for a break, and we're going to get right back to it. Listen, I'm happy to take your calls on this too. I can't tell you again how much I was taken. I didn't expect to be, but taken with this Barry Weiss speech at the Barbara K. Olson dinner for the Federalist Society. It was something, man. If you get a chance, listen to it without anyone else talking in the background, or if you're just driving by yourself or sitting at your desk, Listen to this thing. It is it's impressive, especially coming from someone who's a self-described liberal who was worked at the New York Times. You just don't expect to come away feeling like, man, that what she said made a lot of sense there, and it really did for me. But between that and Josh Sharf going out there to stand up for what he believes in, I don't know. We just got a lot of good people that are willing to come on this show. And we're still trying to get Phil on too. I don't know if that's ever going to happen, but this would be a good topic for him to weigh in on as well. Listen, I want to cut away for a break, but not before I tell you about my dentist. That's right, Doctors Richter and Snyder snuggled into this super awesome, modern, but very, very warm office down there at about Stroh Road and Parker Road. Fantastic location, easy to get to from just about any direction. I'll give you one exception. Do not go down Parker Road at rush hour in the evening. That's it. That's my only advice. Otherwise, easy to get to from any direction. And these are good folks who do great work on behalf of you. They don't see you as a dollar sign. They don't see you as just another mouthful of teeth. They really do treat you like you're a friend they haven't seen in 6 months, because you're going in every 6 months, and they get caught up and they have the conversation. And all of a sudden at the end of it, they're like, your mouth is good to go. Or they say, hey, here's something that we need to do to make your mouth better, your smile better. And they do it all, whether it's the Invisalign, the bridges, the dentures, you name it, they do it. They also have a plan in place that you can access where it's like, listen, I don't have the right insurance to cover this, or this is to, they'll work with you on that. They have a plan for that. Give them a call at 303-841-7466, 303-841-7466. You can check them out at Twin Aspen Dental Center, all 4 words.com, twinaspendentalcenter.com. When we come back, you, me, the texts that are coming in, George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. My thanks to Josh Scharf from the Independence Institute, but was not on the radio this time on behalf of the Independence Institute, which is really just on behalf of Josh, recounting the super well attended. I mean, nearly 300,000 people from across the country amassing there at the Washington, D.C. location is a big one, especially when he said it's almost 5% of all Jews in America. That's if, of course, they were all Jewish, but that's really impressive. Give me your thoughts, 303-696-1971. Going to Frank from Evergreen. Frank, what are your thoughts, man?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Well, it's clearly terrible and all that, but I just wanted to relay a story from my father, who was a retired Navy and then went to work for the U.S. Army in NATO in Germany. And the one thing that I remember him telling me, God rest his soul, is that he said, and this is 20 years old, so it may have changed now, but he said that the German people would do it all over again if they had the chance.
You think so?
That's what he said. I have no
Maybe
idea.
at the
really.
time, but I've been there and it doesn't feel that way right now, but what do I know?
Yeah.
Have you been over there?
What do any of us know? Pardon me?
Have you been back over there? Have you been over to
I have
Germany?
not. I've been to Europe and not Germany.
I've been to Germany numerous times, and they have their laws that are like they outlaw the Nazi party. I mean, they just take a different approach to the expression thing than America does. The only thing that might change that is whether it's latent anti-Semitism or latent anti-Semitism that is emboldened by the fact that they got crushed with all of that Middle East immigration. Do you remember that? That's the other thing that is plaguing, in some ways, London and Germany and other parts of Europe, where they got an influx of folks who, maybe have it within them to not like the Jews.
I'm mostly familiar with Denmark and their situation. Because they're part, a human cannot become a citizen of Denmark, even if you were have lineage, you cannot become a citizen of Denmark. The only way you can become a citizen is since Denmark's part of the EU, if you become a citizen of Germany or some other country, then you're automatically able to go to Denmark and work there and all that. But they've had a huge problem there, just like Sweden has, where the people that, obviously Denmark is a lily white country. I mean, you go there, literally everybody's blonde, and so the people of color stand out, big time. But they've also kept statistics where the people of color, some huge percentage of them are committing a huge percentage of the crime. And because Denmark is like,
who's committing the crime? Say that again. Who's committing a huge percentage of the crime?
The people of color who immigrate to Denmark.
I have not seen that. Do they have an explanation for why that is? Is it just they are on a lower socioeconomic class?
I'm sure they do.
Yeah.
I'm sure they do. It's because it's because they're racist, probably. Who knows? But I don't know what the explanation is. I'm just saying that's what the data is.
Yeah.
And it is funny because we would. My daughter went there for her study abroad from CU, and I have my wife her parents are from Denmark, but the thing is they it's kind of interesting, and this is this is one data point. Okay.
Sure.
You'd ride the buses there, which are, the public transportation is friggin' awesome.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And they have these cops that get on, and if you haven't got your ticket, you're booted off the bus. And almost every single time that happened, it was a person of color. I mean, all the people who
not having their tickets and stuff.
Yeah, didn't have their ticket, and the cops were funny. They didn't take any lip. If they said get off the bus, you better get off the bus.
I'm going to presume, Frank, that it has less to do, in fact, nothing to do with the color of their skin than their status as immigrants in that country. And I just don't know if maybe they don't have the money, maybe they don't have the culture to support it. Like they don't get the whole.
Denmark,
I don't know.
Everybody's got the money in Denmark because they live on they as my father-in-law used to say, they live on the Goldman. They live off the Goldman. If you're in Denmark, you got money. I mean, I'm not talking about a lot of money, but you've got enough to survive and live, and it's not even a question. You live off the Goldman. Everybody does. And most people in Denmark
how
work.
does that flow to the immigrants?
Yeah, of
They're
course.
giving the immigrants money?
If you are a Denmark citizen or I guess the equivalent of our green card, you get the same thing everybody else does. And there's no mumbo jumbo. Yeah, there's no mumbo jumbo.
I'm gonna go to Denmark.
You know, where you got to go to 15 different departments and you got to get your food stamps here and you got to get this. It's just a matter of, you're there. Matter of fact, interesting story. When you get laid off in Denmark from a job, because there's a lot of big companies in Denmark.
Sure.
They you don't just get laid off and on your own go find a job like it is here. You automatically, I mean, first of all, the company's got to notify the government, and you automatically on Friday you get laid off. Monday you go on the government payroll, and they have people that work with you to do whatever needs to be done to get you back productive. Now, if you have a lot of times, depending on your skill set and all that and the requirements out there, you might go back to work right away. But other times you might go into a 6-month retraining program.
I don't know, man. I feel like I want to go spend a little time in Denmark and check this out myself. It sounds like big government stuff, but
And I actually worked for a Israeli company. That's why I called about. I worked for an Israeli company. I'll tell you, I've known a lot of Jews and Israelis over the years, and they are fine people. I'm here to tell you they are fine people. And
I'm sure they have a-holes like everybody else, but I don't think that's related to their faith. I just think as long as we're seeing them the way we see everybody else, independent of all that other stuff, it's just when there's a group of people out there who identify them based on their Judaistic, characteristics or heritage and say, based on that alone, you should die. I mean, that's the problem.
Well, I don't understand it. And again, it's based on my experience.
Even a word? I made that up.
Based on my experience, to a person, they're fine people. I've known quite a few American Jews, and like I said, I worked for an Israeli company, which was, I don't know if you know, but the H-1B visa here is where American companies can hire. And there's a thing called L-1B, where a foreign company can walk into America, open up a storefront in a strip mall and bring in as many of their people as they want to from their foreign country. And that's what I worked for. I worked for a company that came here, opened a storefront, and they had brought tons of their own people in from Israel, but then they also hired some Americans like me. And I tell you what, they were fine people to work with. I mean, I had no problem at all with them.
Well, I think that's great, man. I think that's the lens through which we ought to be viewing everybody, is presume that they're going to be a decent person unless they prove otherwise, right?
So from my perspective, again, limited, obviously, I have no clue why people hate Jews so much.
This is that topic we covered yesterday, but it's there, and it's not just this generation. I mean, it seems like it's not just it's not America. There is some sort of historic animosity there that we have not yet figured out a way to eradicate, and maybe this is part of that process, is to right the ship in Gaza.
One of the things Bomba said yesterday really triggered me. I don't know if trigger is right the word, but he said it's war, and I have to agree with him. It is war. These people have been fighting for their survival for centuries.
Yeah, but
and I don't
remember
know
when he's saying that, it's his way of diminishing the evil of October the 7th. It's his way of saying, well, I can't justify cutting off babies' heads and raping women, so I'm going to tell you it didn't happen. But the rest of it, that's just what happens in war. It's like, no, man, that ain't how it works.
That part of it was a lie. It's not happening. And anybody with half a brain knows it's a lie.
Yep.
But here's the thing, is that when he said it's war, I have to agree with him. These people have been killing each other for centuries. And, it's war. Humans kill each other all the time. We're constantly killing each other. And, as an Army guy, you kind of know that.
Yeah. In fact, trained to do it. Frank, you and I now have had such a good conversation. We've chatted our way through the entire segment. I got to cut you loose till next time, man.
Okay, bye.
All right. Hey, thanks, Frank. Hey, Frank's line is open at 303-696-1971. We were talking about folks who are in need of help That reminds me of our friends out at Step Denver. December the 8th, of course, is Colorado Gives Day. We're going to be there live. Billy, do you even get to go to that, or is that just me that gets to go to that whole thing?
We're discussing whether or not my parole conditions allow me to be downtown yet.
Billy has certain limitations placed upon him by the judicial system that require him to stay a certain distance from various things and people, and we're just trying to figure out. It's almost like the oil and gas setbacks. Do you know what I mean? Like it just, we don't know what parts of the city he can go into. We're going to check into that, but I'll be there. And the reason that we're going to be there is these men and women do God's work right here on earth. And you don't even have to be religious to come to that conclusion. They take men off the street, and takes too strong of a word. They provide an opportunity for men who are dealing with addiction issues and homelessness to get off the street and get themselves right up, stable, skilled, and moving forward in a positive direction that doesn't require them to be on, what Frank just talked to us about, which was in essence the dole. It's not an easy program. It's not a quick program, but it's an effective program. And it's effective because they don't do it the way the government tells them. That means they take no government money, which means they rely upon us to do it. I have I think it's a 2011 Chevy Traverse with a jillion miles on it. I was going to trade that thing in or sell it. Instead, I am going to donate it to them. And Billy and I are talking about sort of the choreography of that right now. Do we do it on the 8th? How do we do it? I owe Vincent a call, but it's happening. And the reason it's happening is because I'm putting my car where my mouth is. I'm not just telling you this is a great program you should give to. I'm going to give to it again as well. And so you can call them for the hassle-free tow at 303-296-9020, 303-296-9020, or you can check them out at stepdenver.org. That's stepdenver.org. When we come back, you, me, the texts that are going on right now, 710 KNUS. Brauchler back with you here at 710 KNUS. Looking, we are working to get Michael Allen, he's the district attorney for the Fighting Fourth, on air in the 8 o'clock hour, probably on that back half. Fantastic attorney who's doing great things down there. Big historic case on fentanyl stuff. If you're looking for someone who can do big historic work on your case, it's Dan Kaplis. He and Babar Wahid, his partner out there at the Kaplis Law Firm, and it's dankaplisLaw.com. They just continue to ring the bell on behalf in a historic way. And when I say that, I mean back to back to back to back to back. Is that 5 multi-million-dollar outcomes for clients who are hurt by someone else's negligence or recklessness, sometimes intentional conduct. If there was a civil law prosecutor, such a thing, that would be Dan Kaplis. He would be the civil law prosecutor. Let him fight for you. Give him a call, 303-770-5551, 303-770-5551, or check out dankaplislaw.com. That's DANKAPLIS, dankaplislaw.com. That does it for the 7 o'clock hour. When we come back, I want to tell you about a big government proposal to blow up public education online. Yeah, we'll talk about it. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Brauchler back with you halfway through the Hump Day show, which means every minute we're on now is a minute closer towards the great weekend leading up to Thanksgiving week. Super excited. Big T comes back this weekend, I think after the CSU Rams game. So we'll have him back, which is fantastic. I miss that kid. You may be thinking, too, in terms of travel. Apparently, this is going to be one of the largest air travel days ever. Not quite pre-pandemic, but getting there, apparently. So be cautious and all that stuff. Hey, I wanted to talk to you about something that I saw online. It really has not yet gotten the attention that it deserves. But there is a big push right now out there to hijack a bit more of our educational process. Now, you've heard of Joe Biden's, he's the president of the United States for the moment. You've heard of his plan to sort of just take a bunch of taxpayer money and give it to people who have gotten college degrees, but in things where they're not employable in other places. And if it sounds like it's a lack of sympathy, it's a little bit of a lack of sympathy here in terms of the higher education process is definitely broken. It's been inflated by the fact that the federal government took over all of the loans for educational things. I long for the days that a bank might step in, sit down and say, you want to do, gendered fiber art as a major. We don't want to give you money for that. And maybe you move on to something else like engineering. I don't know. Nonetheless, there is now an effort to create a government-run online higher education system, and I think it's even going to be bigger than that, that is meant to compete with schools like Hillsdale and what was the other one, Billy, you and I talked about offline? Liberty. And yes, the big public universities too, but a government-run online education system. It's going to be according to how it's being billed, as free. And the way they're going to make it free is the government is going to reach in through, and these are their words, through taxing, fining, and suing other private schools that have endowments. It could be Hillsdale. It could be Liberty. It could be Harvard. It could be Yale. But somehow the government is now going to say, we're going to reach in to those private trusts, those endowments, and we're going to take that money for the government's use and we're going to apply it to online education. This is as big a government hijacking of education as we've seen since Jimmy Carter bowed to the teachers union back in the 70s and created the Department of Education, the much maligned, ineffective Department of Education. Should have still been part of HEW, if you remember, Health, Education, and Welfare. Should have been stuck in there. This is something I don't think we have seen even... I don't think we've even seen this with Biden's hijacking of school debt. Can you imagine what an online education system... Oh, by the way, I forgot to tell you why it's going to be, quote unquote, effective. Not only is it going to compete with these other, I don't know what we call them, legacy educational institutions, the brick and mortar schools, who, by the way, have also gone online, but the government is going to mandate that employers have to accept these bachelor's degrees from this online educational system. How can we tolerate this? Is this something, what is going on here? Why would the government want to take over online education? I'm super skeptical. Can you imagine a point in time in which the government is, well, in the hands of the people it's in the hands of right now? Or what if it's something down the road? What if it's President Pete Buttigieg or AOC, or, and I know she'd never run or get elected, but a Nancy Pelosi or some other member of the squad? And I know you're like, that George, that's never going to happen. That's not the point. Or a Gavin Newsom. Can you imagine what a government run, probably through the Department of Education, online competitor to other educational systems could do? And they mandate employers take these degrees. I don't even know where the authority comes to do that. What is going on here? Would you support this? Would you support the government providing, and it'll be free, folks, it'll be free, because they're going to pay for it by hijacking the endowments of institutions that we support, but also ones we probably oppose. And they have billions out there. There's no doubt they have billions in these endowments. But the government is going to reach in and say, thank you, we'll take your endowment money and we know how to better spend it. And we're going to create this online, I guess it's a university or some other educational platform. Do you support this? 303-696-1971. I wouldn't. I don't want the government involved, especially the federal government, involved in any more education than it is already. In fact, our goal should be to try to pull federal government out of education as much as possible. Now, in Colorado, we have a pretty robust local control mechanism for government. You can see the state constantly trying to figure out a way to hijack that. But can you imagine another big government, federal bureaucracy created to administer online education to compete with Hillsdale or Liberty or even the University of Colorado Boulder? The federal government is going to come in and provide online education for us? 303-696-1971. We're going to go right to the phone lines. Rick from Central Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Rick, what do you think?
Well, good morning. Yeah, I can imagine some of these states that I know in the Midwest, where the state in the states itself, the teachers are so strong that they're just going to really like that.
You think that some
They're
teachers
really
would like the
are,
online thing?
Some of the teachers, people are so strong in the towns and the townships and the cities in the Midwest, these real liberal states. They're going to really like that. They like to have that strong education taking over and dominating the, life. They employ so many people now, and they're hot for it. It's in 3I, really, one of the states I know so well.
When is the last time government competed with the private sector or even the local sector and we thought, goody, it's all going to be better?
Well, I don't know when it's ever really prevailed so much. I think it's been tried before, but it's certainly a really important issue now.
Can you imagine a United States federal government created and administered online education system that will compete with, already, by the way, have you done anything online, Rick? There's a ton of online educational opportunities that are out there. I think, even the elite schools, the Stanfords, Harvards, and everything in between, they all put stuff online.
Yeah, well, you got a lot of choices in this country, but people are looking for, I hate to use the word, but totalitarian type of situations in these, how much they prevail in some of these states. For having strong government, really, and some of the public schools employ so many people, and so
would you support?
It's a good issue.
Would you
it doesn't
support
surprise
something
me.
like this? Would you?
No, I don't support it. It doesn't surprise me that it's happening.
Look, the other mechanism that freaks me out about this is the suggestion that even if it's with universities that have big endowments and they're universities that are largely super liberal, like the Harvards, Yales, Princetons, fill in the blank, the idea that government is just going to be like, well, we're going to reach in and grab those dollars and we know how to better spend them. Like, what are you talking about? That's not the role of government. The role of government is to not figure out how to spend your money better than you can. It's amazing that we're going down this road.
Well, I hope we don't go down the road. That's why it's such an important thing to consider and know about it. I really appreciate you bringing the issue up.
Oh, yeah. This thing, I don't know why it hasn't gotten more play. And we're going to continue to talk about. Billy's right now looking for sound on it. There's sound out there on this thing, and we're going to play it. If we don't get Michael Allen on the back half of the hour, and the dude's so busy, we might push him till tomorrow. I'll just let him do that. And I say let him like I have permission to do it. But we'll continue this. If we find the sound, we're going to play it. But I'm aghast that this is where the government's going, that this is what they want to do. Rick, thank you for that.
Let's have more information on that. Yeah,
we need more information. We need more details on this.
Yeah, absolutely.
I agree. Hey, Rick, thanks. Rick's line is open, 303-696-1971. Marty from Denver, you're on 710 KNUS. Marty, what do you think about all this?
Well, George, it's easy to see how we got here. So you've got a couple of glaring ones that are showing their ugly head here. Number one, we're not hearing and seeing this. Why? Well, we're distracted in Israel and Ukraine and things that are non-related to our children, our most precious resources. That's number one. But George, I got to ask you, what political party do you think is behind a move like that?
I gotta believe, man, that there is it can't be conservatives, right? Like I just don't
Right.
see conservatives saying we need more government in higher education. I see conservatives saying, my God, we want more choice. Let's at least have local government schools putting things online and private schools. Why does the federal government need to jump in and create their own online university?
100% correct, and that's why we stress the urgency and the serious nature of the 2024 election, because this egregious overreach into education, this is nothing if Democrats are successful in 24. I hope people realize that. So when the Republican Party and Fox News and everybody is joining party, this sounds very uniparty to me, George, where our elites are saying we know what's best, and they're so out of touch. Why? They're in their 80s and 70s, and so we're out of touch and we're out of mind. But I think people should get their head out of the Israeli cloud, come right back to America. We've got enough suffering to fill years.
Well, Marty, are you
years of our
saying that
time.
we should not support Israel and what they're doing in defending themselves? Or are you saying that, hey, that's fine, let's support them, but let's not make that the focus of all of our public discussion?
Right. I mean, we don't, I never am going to celebrate sending your children and your money to a foreign nation to potentially never come back. And I would never ask you to, I would never allow you to do the same for me. But really what we're doing is we're with them in spirit, and we're with them in the way we conduct ourselves, because see, here at home, we're in no place to be telling people how to live their lives. Look at our border, look at our inner cities, look at our violence. I mean, look at, holy cow, people that thought they could live away from violence are now consumed by violence in their inner cities. And so that's where I really say, well, hold on a second. We're worried about suffering in Gaza. Go down to 5 points today. You want to see some suffering? See, that suffering's not going to end with a bomb at your front door. That's going to go on and on. You're going to hear the gunshots and the poverty ring for years and decades and pass down to their children. I guess that's where my head goes, my heart goes, when I hear all this pandemonium. And remember, on October 6th, everybody was all in on Ukraine. Remember that, George? October 7th, now we're all in on Israel. What are we not talking about? Impeachment, an open border, a COVID policy that hurt people. I mean, go on and on. That's all I'm saying, George. Let's remember what we're dedicating to our children in this country.
I think we're capable of chewing gum and walking at the same time, Marty. I think we're able to do these things. I think we can. I think that, one, I agree with you when you say I don't want to send boots on the ground over there. I do not. And there's no reason for us to do that. Sending resources by way of aircraft carriers to dissuade Hezbollah and Syria and maybe even Iran from becoming involved, I'm okay with that. If it doesn't broaden the war into something where all of a sudden you and I are talking about potentially sending boots on the ground. So those things I'm okay with. I wish they didn't exist. I don't like the fact that we're spending jillions on it, but the alternative is worse, in my opinion.
And I think you're fair. I think you're reasonable. I think it's fair because I think your heart's certainly in the right place. But remember, we spent 20 years, $2 trillion in Iraq.
Yeah, I was there, man.
You tell me, what do we have to show for that? Literally nothing.
No,
but
not
a
much.
lot of
No Saddam. That's it. We spent $1 jillion bucks to get Saddam out.
Exactly.
And to weaken Iran's natural enemy. That's what we did.
That's right. That's right. And so would you sign up for that again? And I'm saying you probably wouldn't. And so you and I wouldn't. And so we can't really start to play footsie with that kind of an endeavor. And so I just say, let's keep our focus. Let's get our country, our own house so clean that this is what you follow. And then we can deploy. We don't have resources. We've got 30 trillion.
And Marty, here's where you and I are going to disagree. I do not think you can prioritize one to the exclusion of the other and say, we'll deal with stuff internationally once we get our own house in order. I don't think we can do that successfully in the modern world. It's just that it's too small of a planet for us to do this. We're too internationally interlinked economically and otherwise. We just couldn't do it.
Yeah. We've stretched ourselves super thin, though, and there is a snap to all rubber bands, even as great of a country this is. So I think you're on a decent ride there, and I think that there's compelling, but there's also the math problem where it's like, gee, can we go another trillion in debt to help Ukraine, to help Israel? Yeah. And then what's the next one? Because the expectation is we don't say no. So it's a tough place, but I want to just keep my head focused on serving the Lord and those around me that I can impact. And let's do that one-on-one as we move forward.
Marty, thanks for the call. I really appreciate it, man. Keeping us going. 303-696-1971 is Marty's number while we're waiting for those to fill up. I mean, really the question here is, and now I'm thinking about it, is there a good answer to the federal government creating an online educational system to compete with the Hillsdales, the Liberties, and even the bigger public institutions and the private schools? Is there a way to do that in a good way? What if we had a good administration in? Could they make the educational system better? Could they weed out all of the woke stuff? And then would we accept it? I mean, I don't want that either. And I'm not saying I don't want them to weed out the woke stuff. I'm saying that would change administration to administration. The more government gets involved in education, the worse it's going to be for you and me and our kids and their kids. Point to the thing the federal government does really well. Any government for that matter. But the idea of the federal government competing against our colleges and universities and all the other online options, I'm a hard pass. And I can't think. Call me at 303-696-1971. Tell me how this can be a positive. I can't see it. Tell me how we could do this and it would make sense. And you would say, George, under these conditions, I would support this kind of a plan. 303-696-1971. Marty asked the question, what part? I can't imagine this is a conservative thing. It just doesn't feel to me like a conservative principle to say federal government's going to come in and take over online education in this way and to create a competitor that they backfill with monies that they're somehow going to tax, fine, and sue their way into for endowments. That's not America. That's not small government. That's big government. That's lefty thinking. 303-696-1971 is the number. I want to tell you about the good folks at QC Kinetics. They do the regenerative medicine thing. That's the using your own body to help fix your body when you've got the pain and the aches inside your joints. It could be from an old injury. I've got a teeny tiny little bit of that. It could be just because of genetics. Those two things for me have combined to make me super cautious about my knees. Dad's had both of them scoped, but when he was younger than I was, I'm just so freaking scared of going down that road. I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to let it get there. If that's my option, the first thing I'm going to do is reach out to our friends at QC Kinetics and see if I'm the kind of candidate that this might work for. No cutting, no pills, just a needle in and then another needle to take me and move me around to where it can do the most good for my joints. If you've got questions, and I do, call them. They have local medical professionals that'll answer your questions at 303-900-8986, 303-900-8986. You can check them out at qckinetics.com. That's the letter Q, the letter C, kinetics.com. And I'm telling you, man, when this thing happens and it works out for you, I'd love to get a text or a phone call from you. Hell, we might even put you online. I'd just love to hear how it turned out for you. 303-900-8986. Our number, 720. I'm sorry, our number's not 720. That's my cell phone. Please don't call me on my cell phone. 303-696-1971. Some of the texts that have come in here. The government reappropriates their endowments. They will next come after our 401ks and savings. That's such a great thing. I mean, that's a great analogy. These endowments act like, in some ways, like the 401k retirement things, in essence, for these universities. And by the way, I'm not a tax lawyer, so please don't call me and go, they're very different in this way. Yeah, I get it. But the point that the texter is making is a good one. And that is, if the government can dip into this through taxing and fining and suing, what's the limits on the other authority they can use? Is that how we pay for things for the government? We're just going to reach into someone else's savings account. I mean, I get the taxation piece. My God, we get taxed a lot. But for this, a federal government run online, I think it's higher education. We'll have to find that sound. Billy's got it, I think. We'll play it here at some point that describes what it is. It's craziness. Here's another text. I don't understand what an endowment is in this context. Look, donors give a bunch of money that sit in an account that gets pretty favorable investment and tax credit that they can then use for different things, whether it's in a building or whatever. They get pledges for money. This thing is like a super savings account in some ways. It does way better than that. It's kind of like their own, and I'm doing a poor job of describing it, but it's like their own investment account. It's like their own, I don't know how to describe it, like their own IRA of sorts. and they can use it for a whole bunch of different things. They have jillions of dollars in these things, especially the big schools like the Harvards and the Stanfords and the Yales. I mean, billions of dollars tied up in these things. Now, you can think that's a good or a bad thing, but the idea that the government, the federal government, by the way, is going to step in and take those monies and spend them to make education more, more dominated by the federal government bureaucrats. And who's going to administer this? The Department of Education? I mean, haven't conservatives for many, many years said one of the things we need to do is get rid of the Department of Education? Who would come up with a plan like this to expand online education this way? If you're by the way, this before we cut to a break here, let me ask you, do you remember the last time we went to big, widespread online education? COVID. How did that work out for you? I mean, how many college students, and if you're the parent or grandparent one, how many college students that got stuck with online education, even at their local university, wrote home or called home and said, this is the best thing ever? Not a single time. I remember Amanda, who got COVID and was locked down for a bit, and it was almost like a containerized housing unit like we had in Tikrit. Locked down in a room there doing online education. It was like making her crazy. It was the worst experience ever. The high school students, Trey to this day says that experience from COVID, that online garbage set me back, not only in my studies, but in my outlook on education years. And now someone is showing up to say, hey, everybody, let's have government run online education. It's going to be great. We're going to get the smartest of the smarts, the best stuff. It'll compete with all the other colleges and universities out there, and will mandate that employers accept these degrees. I mean, doesn't this feel like a step towards Big Brother? Doesn't this feel like a step towards, I mean, if this was a private organization, I mean, my God, even if it was Elon Musk that came out and said, I'm going to do this, I'd be like, okay, I'm not sure it's a good model, but if it's on your dime and your investors' dimes and it offers an alternative to the government education, great. But government offering an alternative to government education? It's craziness. Listen, here's what we're going to do. We're going to cut away for a break. When we come back, we're going to be joined by Michael Allen. I know it's a break in this conversation. I want to keep this going. Get your questions and your comments ready for after we get done with Michael. I want to keep this going. I think we'll get Michael on for a segment or so to talk about the great work they're doing down there on fentanyl. I think at the last segment of the show, if Billy has found the sound, we're going to play the clip that describes this thing. It's bonkers. There is no version of this I would ever support. Our number, of course, 303-696-1971. When we come back, District Attorney Michael Allen, some great work they're doing on behalf of fentanyl. And then we're going to rejoin this issue. It's too big. The government takeover of online education and creating an online university that competes with our local and private schools. Hard pass. You just get the number ready. 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
Say goodbye to clutter and hello to convenience when you experience organization transformation in your home. Roll 'em Out Shelves, your clutter transformation experts, create affordable Colorado-crafted organized storage solutions. These custom options will maximize and organize your kitchen and bath storage as Roll 'em Out Shelves carefully designs and builds roll-out drawers to fit your space perfectly to clear the clutter. Contact owners Joyce and Brent at Roll 'em Out Shelves to schedule your free in-home estimate today.
George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS. Pleased to bring up online, friend of the show, the district attorney for the Fighting 4th Judicial District, Michael Allen. Sir, thanks for taking time out of your day to talk with us.
Thanks, George. It's good to come into the show with When Doves Cry. I think that's probably what you're about to do now.
You guys had, I read in the paper, you guys had a huge historic day yesterday in the fight to take on the people who pump fentanyl into different places. We'll talk about this case by specific, but tell us why it was historic. What happened?
Yeah, so as you know, we have a new tool in our toolbox, the Fentanyl Accountability and Prevention Act, that was passed at the 11th hour, literally the 11th hour, about a year and a half ago, and signed into law. And finally, we're now starting to see some fruit from that bill being passed. And it gives us the ability, really, in state statute, to go after dealers who are distributing death in our streets and coincidentally in our jails. And that's what the jury verdict was from earlier this week, which a woman smuggled in a fentanyl pill into the jail. That pill was split up between two different people. One of the people was fine. The other person died at the jail. Oh my
God. That's amazing too. One, that it gets into jail. I read in the article too that this was only 10 days after Sheriff Roybal took over the jail.
Yeah, which speaks to a lot of things, right? That this is something that's been going on now. We've known for quite a while. Fentanyl has really just saturated the market here. But it also highlights just how prolific this stuff is, that it can find its way into all kinds of places within a human body to be smuggled in and then be distributed. It's pretty remarkable.
What were the charges that were brought in this case against this person? I imagine there's introducing contraband in a jail of some kind, but this charge was the big one. Was this an F2, a drug felony?
This was a DF1, so distribution of yeah, you know, because it was a less than 4 grams distribution, so just one pill is less than 4 grams, that makes it an 8 to 32-year potential prison sentence. But in the legislature's infinite wisdom, they decided if you kill somebody with only a small amount of fentanyl, you're still probation eligible, which makes no sense to me.
Come on,
so this woman at sentencing will be eligible for probation too, although we're going to be asking for a lengthy prison sentence.
So it seems like, and I appreciate you calling it a tool in the toolbox, you and the other prosecutors asked for a mallet to take to this issue, and they gave you a ball-peen hammer.
Yeah, I think we actually asked for, at least I did, and Kellner did too, and you were up there fighting with us too. I would actually prefer they gave us a Moab, right, mother of all bombs, to take against this thing.
Right.
But they gave us, a ball-peen hammer maybe.
Yeah, I mean, you're right that it's a tool, and I'm glad that you ended up using this thing. But at the end of the day, and I think obviously she's going to get some kind of prison. I don't know what her criminal history is, but if she's in jail already, it sounds to me like she's got something else going on in her background. This particular sentencing that's coming up is this probation eligible person?
She would be a probation eligible person.
Unbelievable.
Coincidentally, she did have. She was actually currently on probation for a distribution of meth charge, DF3.
Huh.
So she's got prior drug distribution history, which will certainly be used against her when we get to that sentencing phase. But yeah, she's still probation eligible. There's nothing about the case, either by the facts of the charge or her prior history, that would make her ineligible for probation.
Look, as an aside, I mean, after she's sentenced, she will be officially convicted of this thing.
Right.
Am I right in concluding that because of the changes in the law at the Capitol under this this particular legislature, she would still be eligible to go possess a firearm in the future?
You know what, George? You are absolutely right, and you shocked me that you pay attention to this stuff still.
Still interested.
Yes.
Still interested.
Yeah. So people that are convicted of drug distribution or even motor vehicle theft, which is a dangerous felony offense, we've had lots of officer-involved shootings that are results of them trying to stop somebody in the process of stealing a car that then pulls out a gun and tries to shoot it out with the cops.
That must be an El Paso thing, because I've heard it in Denver from legislators. People steal cars to have a place to sleep. I don't know what's going on down south, but jeepers.
Right, and a boat on wheels, yeah.
Right.
It's people that are convicted of auto theft and distribution of drugs can legally possess a firearm under current Colorado law, which is something that you and I have fought against
Oh,
in the
my
legislature
goodness.
as well.
And this is a drug dealer who's just killing people with their drugs, whether she was armed or not at other times. I don't know, but that doesn't make any sense to me. For this particular case too, do you know, did your prosecutor in the courtroom have an opportunity to get any feedback from jurors directly? Like, hey, here's what we thought, we hung up on this, or here's the law was clear, anything like that?
They did get a chance to chat with the jurors. The jurors were very appreciative, and we're always very appreciative of the jurors' service too. I mean, they get plucked out of their daily lives and have to sit through what can sometimes be very maybe sometimes boring or difficult evidence to hear, that kind of thing. They do fantastic work, and this jury is no exception to that. They just express gratitude to the effort that was put in, both from the investigative and then prosecution effort, and they convicted on everything, and they weren't really out for very long. They got the case late the day before, and then the verdict came in the morning hours of the next day.
Well, I presume public defenders represented her since she was in custody, but what was the defense? What's the argument against accountability under this particular law?
Yeah, basically that they were trying to argue that there was some attenuation to the distribution, that this person that brought the drugs into the jail gave the pill to somebody else, and then that person is the one that gave it to the person who died. And they were trying to argue that that she wasn't the real distributor, it was this other person, trying to gloss over the fact that it would not have been in the jail had she not smuggled it in some orifice of her body.
Did they argue at all the composition of the pill? A couple things. Did they ever argue about whether or not it was, what's that percentage, something more than 50 or 60% of the total composition of the material stuff? Did they argue that, or did they or did they argue it all too? Like, well, she didn't know there was fentanyl in there, even though that's not really part of the stuff. But did they argue any of that stuff?
Not to my knowledge. They could have, but I don't think, at least as it relates to the proximate cause, which is what you're talking about, that 50% issue. Nothing along those lines. And I don't think, but I can check with our actual prosecution team whether there was any argument about she didn't know. But I don't think there was anything on that either.
This is a big one, man. It's hard to know how many times this thing is going to show up and we're going to have the opportunity to do it. It's good to have the tool in the toolbox, even if it's the ball peen hammer when we were looking for the Moab and all that stuff, but it's good to know that it's out there. It's interesting that it took place in a jail setting. I mean, I kind of thought this would end up at a party somewhere, or, two people hanging out in an alley or something, but fascinating that it started in the jail in that kind of a controlled environment.
Yeah, the other part that's interesting too is how quickly, relatively speaking, this thing made it to trial and jury verdict. You know how slow that process can be, and relatively pretty quick.
Hey, another question, and I didn't tell you I was going to ask you this. Feel free to say can't comment on it, but there's some stuff going on with some bodies out there and some of those facilities that handle them. Any procedural updates, not substantive, procedural, that you can give us?
Yeah, we're still waiting on word from Oklahoma. I think it may have happened yesterday. And this is on the Return to Nature funeral home case that you're referencing, where there were, 190 bodies were discovered, 189 bodies were discovered in a facility down in Penrose, which is in Fremont County, just to our south. But the business was located here in El Paso County, and a lot of their work was done here. So we have jurisdictional hook into the case. But we're just waiting on extradition from Oklahoma, where the two defendants now were arrested.
Do us a favor. You and I know we've been down this road a million times, but some folks don't get it. They're like, well, wait a minute, warrants for their arrest, they get grabbed up. Don't they just put them in a van or a plane and send them over? Talk a little bit about the extradition process.
Yeah, so basically it kind of relates back to the idea that each state is its own sovereign place, right? So we can't just send our police down to another state and hook somebody in and bring them back. We have to actually go through an extradition process where they're notified, hey, you've got this warrant in another state. Do you want to contest that warrant, or do you want to waive contesting it and just go back? My understanding is, I think that they waived extradition, so they should be back here shortly, in the next couple of days, I would guess. But there's a legal process that you have to go through, due process, essentially.
Have you yet made a decision about what charges will be brought in this?
We're looking at that currently, and when we get to filing of charges, which will probably be another couple weeks out, I would guess. We still have to get through first advisement, which will happen when they get back here to Colorado, which will just, be advising them of what's going to happen next. And then we'll get set for filing of charges. At that point, we'll be able to get into more detail about that.
Hey, quick question on something else. I'm not going to refer to the case specifically, but the procedure. You guys have a grand jury down there.
We do, yeah.
And you've used the grand jury before.
Yep, we have.
When the grand jury indicts, as an elected prosecutor, do you feel bound to take every charge that they indict on to trial, come hell or high water?
Generally speaking, I think I think all elected DAs have probably a slightly different view on that. Generally speaking, I think it's you should probably take what they indict on, but there's nothing binding on it. If we decide that there's not enough evidence, even though the grand jury says there is, we can decline still at that point. I haven't had to tackle that issue yet. We've been pretty good on what we've gotten from grand juries so far, but that is something that percolates up every once in a while.
And I presume too that even on indictments, there is a discussion about potential plea bargains and all that other stuff. So it's not like, hey, we're handcuffed. Grand jury has said this. It's no deals now. Now you've got to face the man. I mean, you guys have plea bargain cases out that were indicted.
That's an avenue of potential. Yeah, that where you can then go to the defendant and presumably if they're represented by an attorney saying, hey, this indictment was just given.
Yeah.
Do you want to engage in negotiations before we just launch this thing? And sometimes that can result in a plea agreement before the filing, essentially.
I only ask, Michael, and I'm not trying to set you up for anything. I just know that there was another, and I use prosecutor with a small p in air quotes, somewhere else in the state, who recently commented on a couple failed trials by saying we felt duty bound to honor the grand jury's indictment and walking some dogs into court that turned out poorly. And I'll talk about that off the air some more, but you
Right.
probably know where I'm going, but that's what I was asking about was the grand jury doesn't dictate to you your course of action after the indictment. And in part, it's because they have such a low damn bar. It's probable cause. They have superpowers when it comes to investigation, but they're not coming out and telling you this case is solid gold. Go get it, Tiger. They're saying, here's what we got,
exactly.
So,
I don't think that a grand jury indictment like that abdicates our ethical obligation. If we don't feel like we have a reasonable likelihood of success at trial, then we ought to take a pretty strong look at whatever it's coming out of a grand jury. So
I agree, man.
I think our ethics still have some play there.
I agree with you. Hey, this is Michael Allen. He's the elected guy running for re-election, by the way. Has anybody made the mistake of announcing they want to run against you?
I heard that you were looking for houses down here, George. I don't know if that's true or not, but are we going to go mano a mano here?
No, it's the wrong word. You heard I'm looking for a job down there.
Oh, a job. Okay,
it wasn't a house. It was a job. No.
Yeah,
no, I'm not
nothing.
moving.
Nothing. Yeah, nothing on that front yet.
It's getting to be pretty late in the game for someone to show up. So anyway,
that's right.
Yeah, good for you. This would be your second of 12 terms or something like that they allow down in El Paso County.
They allow 3 terms in the 4th Judicial District, El Paso and Teller County. And, I've really enjoyed the first 3 years as my term as DA, and I'm looking for at least one more term. So,
well, man, based on my time down there with you so far, it seems like you have the support of just about anybody involved in the system. So that says a ton about you. I'm pleased to support you as well. I am offended in this one thing before I let you go. They put your picture up on the YouTubes and the Rumbles when we have these conversations. In fact, next time we ought to try to do this live on video. You are appallingly young looking. I mean, as Billy and I look at this thing, you've got to be at least at the front edge of the zip code that we're in, and you look like you could be our son. And by our son, I mean not that Billy and I created, but you know what I mean.
Yeah. There's some interesting stuff going on there. If you and Billy created me, but that's a different discussion.
There are a lot of things I say on air, Michael, that I regret instantly. And this is now one of this is just how it goes. Michael Allen, District Attorney for the Fighting 4th Judicial District. Congratulations, man. Thanks for taking time out of your day to talk with us.
Thanks, George. I always have fun chatting with you, and I look forward to, like I always tease, I'm looking forward to some news on your front at some point in the near future. So
it's coming.
All right.
One way or the other. It's coming, man. All right. Thanks.
Yeah,
hey,
yeah. All righty. Thanks,
that's DA Michael Allen. I just love that dude is down there throwing punches and fighting the good fight. And it's true, man. I know you guys don't see the details and the nitty gritty of what goes on under the Gold Dome. There are about 2 guys out there who are fighting hard for what we would have taken for granted 10 years ago as common sense approach to criminal justice. And that's John Kellner and Michael Allen. They're like it, man. And it seems at times that they're opposed to the whole rest of the political world up there on trying to fight for things. I just love that this guy's in charge of what's going to be, by the way, in January of 2025, the 4th Judicial District will become the largest, most populous jurisdiction in the state of Colorado. Right now, of course, it's the 18th where all the good-looking DAs are. But that'll change in January 2025. Hey, listen, I want to cut away for a break. We're going to come back for a short time. I want to revisit our issue here on this educational piece. I don't think we'll have time to play the sound. I'm going to do it at the top of the 9 o'clock hour after a little more discussion. But the federal government wants to take over online education, or at least provide a government-run alternative to schools for free. For free, by the way, for free. And maybe you like that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. 303-696-1971. Got to quickly tell you about our buddy Mitch Floria at the Art of Granite. Mitch does counters. Mitch only does counters. But because of that, he is a specialist, a craftsman, an artisan, and a great businessman. You need to go out and see him. You could do all the business online and on the phone. You'd be cheating yourself out of an experience. I mean, if you want to have that sort of breathtaking look at things that God has made, that they pulled out of the ground and turned into countertops, or that man has made through the quartz. I mean, they do granite, the marble, the quartz, anything you can make a countertop out of. My guess is this guy has done it at least once. He also gives you his cell phone, not some call center outside the U.S., his cell phone, 303-386-5919, 303-386-5919. He does that because he's an old school businessman. He does it the right way. The handshake and the word means something. And that's how he's going to win over your business. He's also going to say, oh, by the way, in addition to the wholesale prices, if you're a 710 listener, you tell him you're a George listener, he's going to throw in the bathroom countertop for FREE, free, with the kitchen countertop package. Or if you're just doing one room, he'll throw in the sink for free. He wants your business. He's our guy. Go get him. artofgranite.com, theartofgranite.com. When we come back, you, me, our topics, we'll get to the 9 o'clock and keep it going. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you. If you hear that music over my voice, it means, yep, we've once again mismanaged the clock. But that's okay. We're going to be back in just a few seconds to continue the conversation. A government-run, free online university. Good idea? Do you support it? I don't. 303-696-1971. It's George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. Brauchler back with you here. Final hour of the Hump Day Show on 710 KNUS. Only Thursday and Friday, and this hour stand between us and the great weekend before Thanksgiving. Also looking forward to some sports, man, this weekend. Oh, by the way, another game. I'm going to go to this. You ought to, too. CU-CSU basketball up at Roby the Wednesday after Thanksgiving. Got a call from CSU. They said, hey, do you want tickets? I'm going to do it, man. I think I'm going to go up there. CU looks, men, and of course the women's. My God, women's is like number 5 in the country. Looking for an opportunity to get up there anyway, hang out with the T-man. So we're going to do that. Along the lines of education, though, here's the topic that we started in the 8, and we got some good texts, some good calls, but I want more of this. Here's what's going on. There is now a proposal to have the federal government create a free online university covering, I think, the universe of knowledge that is designed to compete with, for lack of a better term, legacy educational institutions like, yes, Harvard and Yale and those, but also our local state universities like CU and CSU, go Buffs, by the way, and even places like Hillsdale and Legacy. And this free online university, which, by the way, it's hard to use the term competition when the government steps in, right? Because the government doesn't have to earn a profit. The government doesn't have to be successful. It gets to compete at the level it sets because it has access to our money. But this is what's unique about this one. Well, it's sort of unique. This proposal is to reach into the endowments for the Hillsdales and the Liberties and the Harvards and the Princetons and the Stanfords and the fill in the Blankstons, and to tax, I'm using the language from this proposal, tax, fine, and sue to get access to those privately held funds and to then have the government use them to create a free online university. What? I mean, it was enough when the president said, well, I'm just going to simply forgive a whole bunch of loans that the federal government gave out. And the government should not have been in the business of hijacking the loan process for higher education, but they did. And since then, the cost of higher education has shot up through the roof, and we're all on the hook for it. Well, now they want to take these endowments, these private funds for these private organizations, and create a free online university. I have a lot of questions about this. This concerns me greatly. This is not conservative in any stretch of the imagination. Like, for instance, who picks the curriculum? Who's going to manage this? The Department of Education? If you're excited about the idea of a federalized DMV, this is it, right? Like, if you like what the Department of Education has done right now, what in the world would they do with an online university that would compete with our local schools? Would you support this? 303-696-1971. Maybe I'm not seeing it right. Like, tell me how this becomes a positive thing. Maybe Patrick from Denver can help us out. Patrick, you're on 710 KNUS. What are your thoughts, man?
Yes, I want to call you to clarify something here.
Yeah.
We hear a lot about free college in Europe, and specifically France, because that's where I'm from. Over there, in order to qualify for the free college, you have to have a certain grade point average to qualify. If you don't, and your parents have the money, well, then they'll send you to a U.S. college.
Okay.
So that's it. I mean, I noticed that in this country, it's like, well, you can go, we're trying to get free education, but there is no qualification for that.
Would it matter to you in the context of this conversation, Patrick, if you said, hey, as long as you've achieved a certain level, GPA in high school, the federal government will allow you access to this free university? Now, this proposal is for la-di-da-di everybody, by the way. This isn't limited to just performers. Yeah. Would that change your mind on the federal government becoming more entrenched in our higher education?
No. The United States is not set up for that.
Do you want it? I mean, should it be? Should we have a federal government dictating curriculum for a competitor higher education, even if it's online, to whatever we have at the state level?
No, not under those circumstances.
What circumstances can you see this being a positive thing?
That's something, it's so new. That's something that has to be debated and sorted out.
Well, that's what we're doing here. Like, let's talk about it. What are the things you would want for you to feel comfortable with the federal government creating a quote unquote free online university? What would it take?
I don't know. I have to stop and think about that. But it would, number one, you would have to have a grade point average, and number two, it would have to be a course that actually you can do something with.
I agree with you on that. I think we'd have to move away from, and by the way, if it's the federal government, they're going to change this, but you're right. We have to move away from this idea of sort of anarchic gender studies or whatever it is. These kinds of degrees that don't advance human knowledge and don't provide any opportunity to earn a living outside of the academic environment. I agree with you. But once this thing gets stood up, even if Republicans stood this thing up, which I can't envision a conservative ever pitching this, but even if we did, we're not going to be in control of the Department of Education forever. What mischief could the next administration, could the next Obama or Biden administration get into with a thing like this?
Exactly. That's the problem. Well, once you get the government involved, after a few years, it becomes, status quo.
Status quo, or even politically driven, like the curriculum choices here. Like you and I would agree, and I presume a Republican who was in charge of this would say, I want us to move away from the goofy majors and just get back to the, the fundamentals, the usable thing. But that's only as long as that administration is there. Then what?
Exactly. We have we have 4-year governments. Sometimes with an extension of 8 years.
Well, let's hope it's a 4-year government this time. Patrick, thank you so much for the phone call and the conversation. Patrick's line is open, 303-696-1971. Some texts that have come in. I can get to a couple of them here. Don't need more government in education. That's implementing communism and indoctrination. I'm sure real history will not be taught. And then it's a red, unhappy, angry face emoji. It could be. I mean, let's give it the best possible spin, right? Let's say it's a Republican in charge of this administration, in charge of this. Maybe you could clean up some of it, but it only lasts as long as that administration. How are you going to ensure that the curriculum, administration in and administration out, is one that is the right one? And listen, I'm not sure that we've done it at the state level, but my God, I'd like to have a private university make these decisions, or college, because then you can vote with your feet and your dollars, or to have at least a state school do it where your local people have influence over this. But to have the federal bureaucracy in charge of this is bonkers. 303-696-1971. David from Denver, you're on 710. What do you think?
Good morning, George. My assessment, I'm talking now about our local grade school, middle school, and high school, is that that is socialism in its structure, and socialism is a defective method of accomplishing things, and I guess, to say it another way, my attitude is, if I was king for a day, public schools would be abolished. We would.
How would we provide education?
Excuse me?
How would we provide education to folks?
We would do it with vouchers and standards that competing schools would have to meet.
Well, it feels like the vouchers thing is still public funding of education. We'd still have public schools.
It is public funding, but the funding could go to non-public education facilities.
Interesting. How do you respond to this proposal to create a quote free, federally run online, I presume it's higher education, operation, even if they could provide it for free, which they're suggesting to do by taking by force, it sounds like, endowment money from the various universities? How does that strike you?
Oh, it's an abomination. It's outrageous, and it will fail. It will accomplish nothing good.
What if you could ensure you and I were helping to pick the curriculum? Would it change your opinion on it?
No.
Why not?
No, because you and I will come and go. Even if you and I did it correctly, the people who would follow us wouldn't.
Yeah.
It's an institution that is doomed to fail.
David, I agree with you. And even if it were not going to fail, and the reason it wouldn't fail from a funding standpoint is, as you know, the government can just keep reaching in and into our pockets and taking the money they need to keep a good idea going. It's like you never see a government program go away, right? Like nobody announces,
well,
hey, folks, we're doing away with Medicare Part B. And I'm not suggesting they should. I'm just saying nobody ever does that.
Right. Anyway, there's one defect in your sentence there.
Yeah, tell me.
And the defect is that it's a good idea. It is not a good idea.
Yeah. But that's why they do it, is they think, and I should have used air quotes for that. Man, David, thanks for the phone call. 303-696-1971. David's line is open. Frank, we're going to get to you other calls coming in. Billy's juggling those as well as some texts. What would you do with this? I mean, this doesn't feel conservative to me at all. I mean, maybe there's a good way to do it. But I think David's point is well made. We come and go, man, but the government sticks around. The bureaucrats stick around. How would you ensure that this thing, I don't know, man, couldn't be used for mischief? But still, I don't want the federal government involved in education, higher or otherwise, any more than it absolutely must. I mean, we've got candidates routinely campaigning on let's do away with the Department of Education. This feels like let's grow the Department of Education's purview and their ability to influence other schools. I can't imagine that this thing is a good idea, but I'd love to get your thoughts on it. 303-696-1971. Let me tell you about Gay Ribble with Empower Home Team at Keller Williams. Gay, of course, I've talked about her a million times, had her on the radio multiple times to talk about what a great person she is, the fact that she is an SME, a subject matter expert in all things real estate, up and down the Front Range. I mean, when she was in studio here a few weeks ago, she was telling us about, hey, here are a couple great places to still find reasonable homes in these towns up in the north. Yeah, man. I mean, that's what she knows. So if you're in a place where you want to or need to move out of your current situation into a new one, and ownership is on your mind, and it should be if you can do it. That's my opinion as a multiple home owner over the course of my life. Then you got to call Gay Ribble. She'll give you the straight scoop. She'll also guarantee to sell your home. This is the Sell with Certainty program. Guarantee to sell your home at an agreed upon price or make up for it with money to you. Yes, please. Thank you very much. I mean, where was that when I was trying to buy and sell homes earlier in my life? I wish I had known that Gay was out there. Now you do. You don't have to go down the same road I did. You call her at 833-301-SOLD. 833-301-SOLD. And you tell them George told you to call. You can check them out at sellwithcertaintycolorado.com. It's a lot of words, a lot of letters in there, but easy to remember. Sellwithcertainty.com. Listen, we've got the government doesn't control curriculum. The NGOs like accreditation committees do, which is how they've made colleges havens of depravity. And college should use 30% of their own endowment annually to reduce costs. That's the amount the feds expect you to spend on your kids' college. That last part's interesting. I wonder if you could create rules where a certain percentage of the endowment. That's interesting. I hate to have the government tell us how to spend money, even if I'm a private institution, especially if I'm a private institution like a college or university, but I'd be interested in exploring some of the rules on how an endowment's money gets used to some extent. Here's one. I think an educated population is a benefit to everyone. The more we can make education accessible to folks, the better. I don't see the problem. It's good for economic growth. It's good for quality of life. What else is government supposed to be shooting for? Well, I don't mind government playing a role, local government with local control playing a role in education. I'm not telling you that government doesn't have a role there, but the federal government, why the hell should the federal government be involved in making education decisions? What do those clowns know so far removed from our communities about what we need to know? No, thank you. I don't disagree with almost everything you've said in there, Texter. I think an educated populace is a benefit to everyone too. Why in the world would you invite the federal bureaucrats into online education to quote unquote compete with our local products or our private products like Hillsdale. Why should Hillsdale be competing with the federal government when Hillsdale has to get donors? It has to get students to come in and pay tuition. The federal government just has to reach back into Hillsdale's endowment to pay for its product. How in the world does that make any sense? 303-696-1971, the number. Frank and Ron are on the line. I'm just close enough to the break. In fact, I'm probably there. Let me do this. I'll read another text. Are the military colleges like West Point, Annapolis, and so on government owned and operated? Nope. Yeah, of course they are. 100% extremely different, right? Like these institutions do not exist to just educate folks. They are part of the process of creating an officer corps for our armed forces. Very, very different. And the armed forces, of course, also not privatized for a good reason. Do I think we could spend a lot less on defense if we privatize the military? I sure do. Would I support that? I sure wouldn't. I only want a military that is sworn to defend the Constitution, period. They have no other master but the Constitution. That's it. I don't want anybody beholden to the person who's able to pay them the most. That's mercenaries. No, thank you. That's why we have military academies the way that we do. 303-696-1971. Going to cut away for a break. I promise we're going to come back. Frank, Ron, whoever else is calling in right now. And I'll let you know when the line is open. There's one right now. Keep calling in. We're going to have this conversation, and we're going to play the sound after this next segment. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. George Brauchler back with you here, 710 KNUS, going right to the phone lines. Frank, you're on 710. What do you think?
George, you're the perfect canary in the coal mine to be suspicious of this thing. With your military background and your legal history and rules of evidence, you know, it's like so many things that are introduced by the government with a good idea, or a local politician with a, quote, good idea to introduce it, but then it goes bad. I think everything should be penciled out. I think we should teach our kids in lower grades to pencil things out, to figure out the good and the bad. And you start with a blank piece of paper, or a line right down the middle. On the right is good, on the left is bad. And up at the top, you know, put a T, put a line across. And on the left side of that line, you put control, parentheses, mission creep. And on the right, you put freedom. And you try to assign the different tenets of this different program of where they land up on this right-left line of freedom versus control. And obviously it has some goods, I suppose, but hidden not too cleverly in there is this ability to tap into the endowments and tax.
That part is crazy to me. Like,
oh my
what?
God, that's, you know, how much, when are we going to ever get it? I mean, look what Polis and the Democrats just tried to do with HH. Thank goodness there's a 20% difference in the population out there that goes, wait a minute, we're already hit hard enough with the recession created in large part by the Dems. You know, what are they going to do? Are they just going to put us totally down?
Yeah, Frank, you've said some good things in here that cause me concern. We should do a ledger, but the other thing that we should have in that sort of comparison too is ask ourselves, especially when it's the federal government, what's the worst version of this thing, right? Like if we empower something, some agency, or create a thing like this, if the people we don't trust the most, the people that disagree with us the most had control of it, how could they use it for something bad? And
the biggest bad thing would be another bureaucracy. I mean, thank God for Al Gore. He already gave us the answer. I mean, he gave us
the internet.
The internet.
Oh, yes,
and,
right.
you know, if you want to just do something like this, you've already got the ability. You could give grants to any poor kid that said, I don't have the money to go to college, but I really like the idea of a Hillsdale. Could I get a small grant to have the money flow in a different way, flow into the College of Hillsdale to pay for a course in the Constitution? Oops, unless that's ruled off limits.
Right. Well, it's racist.
You know,
the Constitution
it's so sad. I mean, the answer is already there in front of it. We don't need another government bureaucratic
That's right.
institution.
Even if I can see a better or a gooder, if that's a word, version of this, like if the right people were in charge of it. But even then, I don't like the idea of the feds involved in education. It's not government shouldn't help with education. It's the feds.
Did you ever read Brave New World?
Oh, I know. Aldous Huxley, sure.
Aldous Huxley, 1929, test tube babies, alpha, beta, delta, gamma. He was way ahead of his time, and he gave some food for thought for George Orwell, 1984, that was written in 1958. So if you can measure it, you can control it. So when you put more people on the internet taking tests and some government bureaucrat looking at their scores, we go, oh, well, these are alphas, these are betas, these are deltas. Let's assign them to a different task. All this should be left into a free society. That's the beauty of our country, and they're trying to erode it.
There's something going on here, even if the intentions are good. And Frank, I appreciate you saying we got to weigh the pros and the cons, especially when it comes to freedom. But the bigger risk is what happens when the good guys with the good ideas lose control of those ideas? What happens when those bureaucracies get put in place and they're run by the people we disagree with? Frank, thanks for the call, man.
Yeah.
Appreciate it. Hey, Frank's line is open at 303-696-1971. Want to go to Ron. Ron from, it says St. John's, Michigan, but Ron, you have to be here in Colorado with us, right?
No, I used to live in Pueblo for 15 years, but now I live in Michigan.
Oh, well, man, I'm flattered that you would still listen and call in. What do you think about all this, Ron?
Oh, I've been listening for a long time. Well, it sounds like to me, I used to live about 30 minutes from Hillsdale College. I have some friends that have kids that are in their K-12 program, and one of them, I believe, is in college now at Hillsdale. And it looks like to me, if we, I called in a couple of months ago and we talked about this a little bit, not Hillsdale College, but about what does the federal government, the Department of Education, do? And we got cut off, because of a commercial or something. But anyway, it looks like that Hillsdale College, if the federal government goes through with this, that they might be going to the Supreme Court for the second time. I know a lot of people out there know about this, Hillsdale College, but there's a lot of people that don't know. They were established, and I might be wrong on some of these dates, back like in 1845 or 55 or somewhere in there. They're a very old establishment. And in the 1970s, the federal government the Department of Education was trying to give them money, and they wouldn't take it. And so the federal government sued them, and the case went all the way to the Supreme Court, and Hillsdale College won at the Supreme Court level. And so to this day, they have never, ever taken a penny of money from the federal government, and that way the federal government can't tell them what to do. And so this would be another case that would go to the Supreme Court for Hillsdale College, I think. But anyway, it's
interesting. Is there a version of this proposal, Ron, that you can think of? Yeah, this would be good.
No.
Yeah, I'm struggling to find it too.
Yeah. No. Everything. I was several years ago, back in 2010. I was laid up for a couple of months, and I got on the internet, and I happened to find on the internet the budget for the state of Michigan. And I'm looking through there, and I see I got a cash thing where check where they're writing checks to different people, employees of the state of Michigan, and the different departments like transportation, education, and everything, and they're going to seminars and conferences out of state. And all this cost adds up to over $1 million. So I really got into this, and I know my state senators and Congress and legislatures, and I got them involved, and they got involved, and they started talking to the people, and I was talking to a friend of mine in Coldwater, and I asked him about it. He's retired from the school system. And I said, have you ever gone to a conference, out of state? And he said, oh, we had to. Every winter, we had to go to a conference down in Florida. I said, what do you mean you had to? He said, well, yeah, it's a federal government. That money, they dictate what we do and where we have to go for conferences and seminars. And I said, wow, they just have so much control.
They do.
Once they give you the money.
Well, that's the other thing, too. I don't want the federal government involved in providing all the funding directly to students, because this is what we get.
Right.
Super expensive school. Like the costs have exploded, bloated university and college budgets, and curriculum that are untethered to any pursuit of real information, knowledge, or usable in the future. And so we have a generation of kids out there with a ton of debt that are like, please pay my bills. And it's like, you shouldn't have been in this debt to begin with. This is the federal government did this, but they want us, the taxpayers, to figure it out. Ron, thank you for listening from Michigan, man. I'm flattered. Here's what I want to do. Billy Dunn found the sound. Buckle up, folks. This is going to blow your mind. It blew my mind when I first heard this thing, but this is the description of the program that will become known, I think, as the American Academy. Take a listen. Uh-oh, Billy, it ain't playing. Billy, is it fired up? Here we go.
We spend more money on higher education than any other country, and yet they're turning our students into communists and terrorists and sympathizers of many, many different dimensions. We can't let this happen. It's time to offer something dramatically different. Under the plan I'm announcing today, we will take the billions and billions of dollars that we will collect by taxing, fining, and suing excessively large private university endowments. And we will then use that money to endow a new institution called the American Academy. Its mission will be to make a truly world-class education available to every American, free of charge, and do it without adding a single dime to the federal debt. This institution will gather an entire universe of the highest quality educational content covering the full spectrum of human knowledge and skills, and make that material available to every American citizen online for free. Whether you want lectures or ancient histories or an introduction to financial accounting or training in a skilled trade, the goal will be to deliver it and get it done properly. Using study groups, mentors, industry partnerships, and the latest breakthrough in computing, this will be a truly top-tier education option for the people. It will be strictly non-political, and there will be no wokeness or jihadism allowed. None of that's going to be allowed. Most importantly, the American Academy will compete directly with the existing and very costly four-year university system by granting students degree credentials that the U.S. government and all federal contractors will henceforth recognize. The Academy will award the full and complete equivalent of a bachelor's degree. In addition, to help the 40 million Americans who have some college education but no degree, the American Academy will grant credit for past coursework at legacy institutions and give you the chance to complete your education at the American Academy for free and much more quickly than is now possible or available. This will be a revolution in higher education and will provide life-changing opportunities for tens of millions of our citizens. Enjoy it, learn from it, and thank you.
That was President Joe Biden talking about, nope. That was Trump. Folks, that was Donald Trump. Now, I want you to picture that whole speech, that whole little 2-minute and 25-second diatribe delivered in the voice of Joe Biden. All the exact same words, or delivered by Nancy Pelosi or Chuck Schumer, the exact same words. You would be like, this is bonkers. There's absolutely no place for the federal government in hijacking endowments, even of universities or colleges with which we disagree, and co-opting them to have a government-run online educational institution where employers will be mandated to accept the degrees, curriculum clearly dictated by the federal government, probably the Department of Education. Now, I get it. They're going to consult with all these different folks, but you know how this thing works. I mean, aren't you shocked by this? I am. I'm shocked that he would say it. It is perhaps the least conservative thing this guy has said since he's been in the public eye as a candidate or the president. The idea of expanding the federal government through hijacked funds, and he said it. We're going to take them. We're going to take them through taxing and fining and suing. What? Somebody tell me how this is good for America. Somebody tell me how this is conservative. I asked the question the way I did because when I heard this, I couldn't believe it. I thought, well, this must be AI. I must be getting punked. But nope. And so when we have the conversation in the order that we did, it matters to me because if you're now sitting there and you've listened to Trump say this and think, well, wait a minute, initially I was opposed, but you got to check yourself. If this isn't a cult of personalities, then you're opposed to this with every fiber of your being if you're a conservative. And if you're out there on the left and you despise Trump and everything he stands for, and you're a big government, yeah, I love the Department of Education person, and you're listening and you've texted in like some of you have and said, hey, government education, I don't see the problem. And you better scratch your head and think, well, wait a minute, I agree with Donald Trump.
Does it change your vote?
Yeah, does it change your vote?
Yeah, this one shocked me because I had not seen or heard it, and you sent it to me this morning.
No, and I was like, Billy, you got to find this sound. And when he did, he was like, what the what?
Yes, I mean, it stopped me in my tracks, and we had a conversation in the hall, even outside before getting into the studio, because I bumped into you outside, and I'm looking at that going, wait, what? And the number of things that just cognitively, I was dealing with cognitive dissonance. It didn't make any sense.
Didn't make any sense to me either. I've just never heard anything like this come out of a Republican presidential candidate, let alone one who so many embrace as a conservative. I mean, what aspect of this is small government? What aspect of this is local control? What aspect of this is let's end the Department of Education? Huh? Can you imagine standing up an organization like this, or an institute as he calls it, and all of a sudden the Dems win again? What? Why in the world is he doing this and saying this? Tons of phone calls coming in right now. 303-696-1971. I don't get it. I don't understand how this makes any sense at all, but maybe you can help me. Listen, I'm open to changing my mind with better arguments and better facts, but the ones I have right now tell me absolutely not ever do I want the federal government dictating curriculum for a quote unquote competitor free online university. If you're Hillsdale, how do you compete with a free online government run, government mandated, you got to accept this kind of, how do you do that? Yeah, I don't know, but maybe you guys can help me out here. Listen, I want to cut away for a break. Can't do it though till I tell you about Brent and Joyce Tolliver. That's the mother-son team that have been just crushing it when it comes to making everything that has a cabinet more accessible, more usable, more valuable for you, making your house a better place to live. Honestly, you're upgrading the interior of your home. So whether it's the bathroom, the kitchen, the laundry room, and I need them to come into my laundry room. I need them to come in and take a look at that as well. Roll them out shelves is the garage too, by the way. Roll them out shelves is the way to go. The 5-star reviews, and I mean 100% 5-star reviews. How is that even possible to do that? Is there anything else out there that has 100% 5-star reviews? I don't know. If they find it, let me know, because this is the only one I've ever seen. Give them a call at 303-475-9601. 303-475-9601. Here's why. And that is because they will give you come out and you have them come out and do your in-home estimate today. You get the first 4 rollouts for free. Installed for free. That's an $80 value for FREE. The rest of it, man, you're just going to be so happy you did it. You can check them out at rollemoutshelves.com. That's rollemoutshelves.com. Listen, when we come back, I'm going to get to the calls. We've got Sandy, we've got Frank. Stick around. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS.
institution will gather an entire universe of the highest quality educational content covering the full spectrum of human knowledge and skills and make that material available to every American citizen online for free.
Welcome to Europe. George Brauchler, 710 KNUS. No, thank you. A hard pass on that suggestion. Can't see that ending in other than a bureaucracy that has nothing but bad things on its mind. Listen, I want to tell you about something before I get to Sandy on the phone here. This is only for dudes, right? The hair thing. And I got to tell you about it. If your hair is thinning, if your hairline is retreating in that battle with your scalp, if you have long wondered, why do I have to keep wearing hats or do the comb over thing? You're in good company, man. My brother was the same way. He decided to go and just shave it all bald. And he's a good looking guy with the shaved head there. But you may be different. And I know I would be too if I found myself in this situation. You got a different degree of confidence. You look younger with that full head of hair. Now, you don't have to wonder anymore. You don't have to do the sprays and the other bizarre treatments. One-stop shopping here with our good folks at Advanced Hair Restoration. These folks have that simple one-day treatment in that calm, relaxed environment with the most experienced professionals that get it all done. Tanya Pauls has been doing this forever. Great accolades and thanks from her customers and clients. Your own natural hair begins to grow the next day. Why not give them a call at 720-459-HAIR, 720-459-HAIR, not the rabbit, what's on your head, hair, or advancedhair.com. You can check them out there. Here's the deal. If you get the free consultation, if you qualify for this thing, you get $250 off and 250 free hair grafts. That's it, man. And then you're on the road towards looking younger, feeling more confident. Advancedhair.com. Let's get right back to the phone lines. Sandy, you're on 710 KNUS. Sandy from Longmont.
Yeah, hi. Listen, I'll make this short,
Sure.
but you might want to look into what the Federalist Society is evidently planning for the next Trump's reign if he gets elected, which I hope to God he does not.
Yeah.
According to an article I read, they're working very hard to come up with a whole plan for him.
I don't
and
think
people
I
for
think
him.
I think you're thinking of maybe the Heritage Foundation, not the Federalist Society. Federalist Society would have nothing to do with this. I can't imagine.
I thought it was the Federalist. Well, anyway.
Yeah, I can't imagine.
It's
Maybe
one of
if
them,
it is. If
okay?
you find that, shoot the link in, because that would be shocking to me.
Okay, I will. I'll
yeah,
take
please do.
another look. I'm thinking Federalist, but maybe not. Anyway, that's just what I wanted to throw out there. And maybe it's something you could look into and see if this is really for sure. Have you ever watched The Circus on Showtime?
I haven't. Political show, though, right?
It's a political show, and it's very, very interesting. And there are many people who are voicing very severe worries about what will happen if Trump gets in. And I think this country needs to really evaluate some of these people they're looking at.
I think this presidential race, I hope, is broader than just part two of what we just had in 2020. And Sandy, thank you for the phone call. Send us that link if you find it. I'll bet it's Heritage Institute or Heritage Foundation. I'll bet it's not the Federal Society. Hey, listen, my thanks to Josh Scharf reporting on coming back from that huge 300,000-ish rally out there in Washington, D.C., Michael Allen from the Fighting Fourth Judicial District, and you guys, of course, for having this conversation. We got to hold everybody accountable who takes positions like the one we just heard. We'll do it again tomorrow. 710 KNUS.